Hello everyone, and welcome to the Fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Naruto inherited the soul of a dragon god, rising as mentor of the Sword King Naruto x Ghislaine Dedoldia Mushoku Tensei. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. Dragon's Awakening. Pain lanced through Naruto's consciousness. Not the sharp, familiar agony of battle wounds, but something deeper, more fundamental. His very essence felt stretched, torn, and reconstituted. Images flashed chaotically. The fourth grade ninja war, Madara's twisted face, Sasuke fighting at his side, and then, sacrifice. His final desperate gambit to save everything he loved. Yet intermingled with these memories were others, ancient, alien visions of soaring through primordial skies, of mountains rising and falling like waves, of civilizations blooming and withering across millennia. The memories of Ryujin, dragon god of the eastern heavens. Naruto's eyes snapped open. Sunlight filtered through emerald canopy, casting dappled shadows across unfamiliar forest floor. His body felt wrong, heavier, denser with power, yet somehow more graceful. He raised a hand to his face, noting with surprise the subtle changes. His nails had hardened into claw-like points, and faint golden scale patterns shimmered beneath his skin when he channeled his chakra. What happened to me? His voice emerged different, deeper, with a subtle resonant quality that hadn't existed before. You have been reborn, little shinobi. The voice echoed from within his own mind, ancient, powerful, and tinged with amusement. Our souls have merged. My power is yours, as is my knowledge. Your determination, your heart, these preserved your identity when lesser beings would have been consumed entirely. Naruto closed his eyes, focusing inward as he'd once done to communicate with Kurama. Instead of the familiar mindscape, he found himself standing in a vast celestial void. Before him coiled an immense dragon with scales of midnight blue that shimmered with embedded stars. Its eyes glowed like twin suns. Ryujin, Naruto whispered, somehow knowing the name. Indeed, the last of the dragon gods, now bound to your soul. Your sacrifice to save you. Our world created a ripple across dimensions. My essence, scattered after my final battle, found resonance with your dying spirit. Together, we are something new. Where are we? This isn't my world. This is a realm far from your own. Where magic flows differently. Where beasts and humans and demons vie for power. A world that once knew dragons, but has forgotten. A sudden crash disrupted Naruto's spiritual communion. His enhanced senses detected movement, large creatures approaching rapidly. Rising fluidly to his feet, he noted with surprise how naturally his body responded, as if he'd spent years honing these new physical capabilities. Through the underbrush burst a massive beast, 8 feet tall at the shoulder, with a hide like granite and tusks that could gore a bull. Behind it came 3 more, their eyes gleaming with unnatural intelligence and malice. Gekiran beasts, Ryujin's voice informed him. Demons corrupted by toxic mana. Territorial and vicious. The lead beast charged without hesitation. Naruto's body reacted instinctively, not with the familiar movements of ninjutsu, but with something older, more primal. His hand extended, palm facing outward, and he fell. Chi energy rushed through pathways both familiar and strange. Ryujin no Ibuki, he intoned, the words coming unbidden to his lips. A torrent of golden flame erupted from his palm, not hot like normal fire but something more fundamental, dragon's breath that consumed the very essence of its target. The lead beast disintegrated, leaving not even ash behind. The remaining creatures hesitated, their steel minds registering the presence of a superior predator. Then, as one, they turned and fled. Naruto examined his hand with wonder. That wasn't chakra, not exactly. In this world, what UK knew as chakra mingles with ambient mana, the fundamental magical energy that flows through all things. Our merged nature allows you to channel both, creating abilities beyond either tradition alone. Before Naruto could explore this further, his enhanced hearing caught sounds of combat, steel striking flesh, guttural roars, and a woman's battle cries. Without conscious thought, he found himself mauve. ing through the forest with preternatural speed, branches barely stirring at his passing. He emerged at the edge of a clearing to witness an extraordinary sight. A tall, muscular woman with leopard-like features, tawny fur, pointed ears, and a lithe tail, fought against impossible odds. Surrounded by 7 creatures similar to those Naruto had encountered, she wielded a massive sword with astonishing skill. Her movements flowed like water, each strike precisely calculated to maximize damage while conserving energy. 3 beast corpses already lay at her feet, but exhaustion showed in her movements. Blood matted the fur on her left arm, and her breathing came in ragged gasps. Still, her eyes burned with defiance as she faced the remaining demons. "Come then, filthy Gekirin," she snarled, baring impressive fangs. "Ghislaine Dedoldia sends her regards to your masters in hell." One beast lunged at her exposed flank while another charged from the front. She pivoted brilliantly to bisect He frontal attacker but couldn't completely avoid the second. Its tusks grazed her side, tearing through leather armor and drawing fresh blood. Naruto's instincts took over. Drawing on both his shinobi training and Ryujin's battle wisdom, he channeled energy into his legs and launched himself into the fray. As he sailed through the air, golden energy coalesced around his right arm, forming claws of condensed power. "Ryujin no Sum," he called out, slashing through 2 beasts in a single arc before landing beside the startled warrior woman. "Who?" she began, but combat allowed no time for questions. "2 on your right, 1 circling behind," Naruto stated calmly, positioning himself at her back. "I'll take the flanker." To her credit, the woman adapted instantly to his presence, pivot ing to face her assigned targets while Naruto engaged the beast attempting to flank them. Her sword technique shifted subtly, becoming more aggressive now that her back was protected. The Gekirin beast facing Naruto pawed the ground, its unnatural intelligence assessing this new threat. Unlike its less fortunate companions, it recognized the aura of draconic power and hesitated. Naruto met its gaze steadily, drawing on Ryujin's knowledge. "You can feel it, can't you? The power that once ruled your ancestors." The creature backed away slowly before turning to flee. Behind him, Naruto heard the meaty thunks of the woman's sword finding its targets, followed by the death cries of the remaining beasts. When he turned, she stood panting among the corpses, her massive sword resting on one shoulder. Despite her wounds and exhaustion, she maintained perfect posture, her amber eyes studying him with wary interest. "You fight strangely," she said finally, her voice deep and melodious despite its gruffness. "Not like any mage I've encountered. Yet you're clearly human, not beast tribe." Naruto inclined his head slightly. "I'm new to these lands," she snorted, a surprisingly delicate sound from such a powerful figure. "Clearly, no one wanders these cursed forests willingly." She wiped her blade clean on a patch of grass before sheathing it across her back. "I am Ghislaine Dedoldia of the Dedoldia tribe. You have my thanks for your assistance, stranger, though I would have managed." Naruto Uzumaki. He hesitated, then added, "And yes, you likely would have prevailed, but at greater cost." Her eyes narrowed at this assessment, pride clearly piqued. "You speak with unusual confidence for someone I've just met." "I recognize skilled swordsmanship when I see it," Naruto replied evenly. "Your technique is exceptional, but you overextend on diagonal strikes, leaving your left side vulnerable for precisely 1.3 seconds, enough for creatures with enhanced reflexes to capitalize." Ghislaine's tail lashed once in surprise or irritation, perhaps both. She studied him more intently, reassessing. "Few have ever noticed that flaw. Are you a sword master yourself?" "I know many combat forms," Naruto answered truthfully, "but my greatest skill lies in recognizing potential and helping others achieve it." Her ears flicked forward with sudden interest. "A teacher, then, when circumstances warrant." Ghislaine straightened, wincing slightly at her injuries before masking the pain. "I seek a master worthy of teaching me. I aim to become a sword king, the pinnacle of sword arts in this world. I've journeyed for 3 years finding only inadequate instructors or charlatans." She gestured at the dissipating corpses of the Gekirin beasts. "Your strange magic is impressive. But can you truly teach swordsmanship at the level one require?" "She has rare potential," Ryujin's voice murmured in Naruto's mind. "Few mortals possess such natural affinity for the blade. In the ancient times, she would have been chosen as a dragon knight. Asterisk. Naruto smiled faintly. I understand skepticism. Perhaps a demonstration. Without waiting for her response, he held out his hand. Golden energy swirled and condensed, forming a perfect replica of her massive sword, though composed entirely of draconic energy. Attack me, he invited calmly. With your full strength and skill. Ghislaine's eyes widened fractionally, but she recovered quickly. Your funeral, strange one. She drew her sword with blinding speed, lunging forward with a technique clearly designed to end fights in a single blow. The massive blade whistled through the air with enough force to cleave stone. Naruto parried with minimal movement, redirecting her momentum rather than opposing it directly. As she passed, he tapped her shoulder lightly with 2 fingers. First opening, he noted quietly. Ghislaine recovered instantly, whirling with a horizontal slash that would have decapitated a normal opponent. Naruto ducked precisely, the blade passing a hair's breadth above him, before tapping her exposed ribs. Second, her expression intensified, all pretense of restraint vanishing. For 2 full minutes, she unleashed her complete arsenal of techniques, slashes, thrusts, feints, and combinations taught by the finest sword masters she had encountered in her travels. Each attack was met with efficient, minimal movements, and each exchange ended with Naruto gently indicating an opening in her defense. Finally, breathing heavily, Ghislaine stepped back and lowered her sword. Sweat matted her fur, but her eyes shone with something new, respect mingled with hunger for knowledge. 17 openings, she said quietly. No one has ever found more than 5 in my technique. She sheathed her sword and, to Naruto's surprise, dropped to one knee before him. I, Ghislaine Dedoldia, request your guidance on the path to becoming Sword King. Naruto dismissed his energy blade, which dissolved into motes of golden light. Rise, Ghislaine. I accept no students who kneel. A true master seeks to elevate others to their level, not to stand above them. She rose, studying him with new intensity. You're unlike any human I've encountered. Your aura, it reminds me of ancient stories my grandmother told, tales of the dragon gods who shaped the world. An interesting observation, Naruto replied carefully. Tell me, what brings a warrior of your caliber to these cursed forests alone? Ghislaine's expression darkened. Rumors of increasing demon activity. Something stirs in the ancient places. Power awakening after centuries of slumber. The beast tribes suffer first, as always. Her tail lashed once, betraying her anger. 3 villages lost in as many months. I track the source. The timing is no coincidence. Ryujin noted internally. Our arrival has rippled through the magical currents of this world, awakening long-dormant forces. Asterisk. I may have insights that could help your investigation, Naruto offered. If you're willing to exchange knowledge, your understanding of this world for my combat instruction. The beast woman considered this briefly before nodding. A fair exchange. My camp lies an hour's travel southwest. If you'll accompany me, we can tend wounds and speak more freely. As they gathered themselves to depart, Naruto noticed Ghislaine studying him with lingering curiosity. Your eyes changed when you fought, she remarked suddenly. The pupils became slitted, like a dragon's. Naruto touched his face reflexively. Did they? Interesting. Most humans would find that concerning. She observed dryly. I've never been. Most humans, Naruto replied with a faint smile. Even before coming here, her camp proved to be a well-organized site nestled between massive tree roots. A small stream gurgled nearby, and carefully arranged stones created both a fire pit and defensive perimeter. Everything spoke of military precision and years of wilderness experience. As Ghislaine tended her wounds with practiced efficiency, she recounted the basics of the world Naruto had entered, the continent of Asura, divided between human kingdoms, beast tribes, elven forests, and dwarven mountains, with demon territories pressing from the east. Magic flows differently in different regions, she explained, applying a pungent salve to her side. Mons typically require incantations and focus objects. Beast tribes like mine channel it through our bodies more naturally. Elves sing their spells, while dwarves bind magic to crafted items. Naruto absorbed this information while simultaneously communing with Ryujin's consciousness, comparing her explanations with the dragon's ancient knowledge. And these sword kings you mentioned? He prompted. Ghislaine's eyes lit with passion. 7 ranks exist in the way of the sword: beginner, intermediate, advanced, saint, king, emperor, and god. Only 12 sword kings exist in the world at any time, each mastering a specific aspect of swordsmanship. To become one requires not just technique, but understanding the deeper principles behind the blade. Which aspect do you pursue? Her expression grew contemplative. The way of ferocity. My people have always been warriors, but too often we rely on raw strength and aggression. I seek to transform ferocity from mere violence into transcendent skill, controlled power rather than blind fury. Naruto nodded appreciatively. A worthy goal. Tell me, what training have you undertaken thus far? As night fell, they exchanged knowledge by firelight. Ghislaine demonstrated the 7 fundamental stances of her swordsmanship tradition, while Naruto shared insights on energy flow and balance drawn from both his shinobi training and Ryujin's ancient wisdom. Your stance is strong, but rigid, he observed as she held a defensive position. True mastery requires adaptability. Water conforms to any container yet can wear away mountains given time. He moved behind her, adjusting her posture with respectful precision. Feel the difference. Your power doesn't diminish, but now it can flow in any direction needed. Ghislaine held the modified stance, her warrior's intuition recognizing the improvement immediately. Yes, less strain, more potential energy. She executed a practice slash that moved significantly faster than before. Impressive. Later, as Ghislaine slept, one ear still twitching alertly even in slumber, Naruto sat in meditation, delving deeper into his connection with Ryujin. The girl has rare talent, the dragon god acknowledged. In the ancient days, she would have been chosen as a dragon knight, warriors who channeled our power through their weapons. Is that why you guided me to her? Naruto questioned internally. Partly. She also stands at a crossroads that may affect this world's future. The power vacuum left by my kind's departure has lasted millennia, but now forces move to fill it. Some seek to restore balance. Others pursue dominion. Images flowed between their merged consciousness. Vast wars fought when the world was young, dragons soaring above armies of various races, and finally, a cataclysmic battle that scattered the dragon god's essences across dimensions. You were the last, Naruto realized. The others fell before you. Yes, against an enemy we never anticipated, one who learned to consume dragon souls. I scattered my essence rather than let it be devoured, weakening myself but denying him complete victory. And now my arrival has disturbed something. Indeed, your soul, already extraordinary from hosting the 9 tails, resonated with my scattered essence. Our merger has sent ripples through magical currents that certain sensitive beings can detect. Naruto opened his eyes, looking toward the sleeping warrior woman. She senses it subconsciously. That's why she spoke of dragon legends. The beast tribes retain stronger connections to primal magic. Higher instincts recognize what their minds have forgotten. A sudden sensation, like electricity crackling across Naruto's skin, interrupted their communion. His enhanced senses detected a disturbance in the magical energies surrounding them. Centered several miles northeast, dragon artifacts, Ryujin's voice whispered urgently. Someone has activated ancient draconic technology. Few things could be more dangerous in unprepared hands. Naruto glanced at Ghislaine, debating whether to wake her. After a moment's consideration, he moved silently to her side and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Her reaction was instantaneous, rolling away while simultaneously drawing a dagger from beneath her bedroll. She froze upon recognizing him, though her muscles remained coiled for action. What? She demanded tersely. Something powerful has awakened to the northeast, Naruto explained calmly. Related to the demon activity you're investigating. Ghislaine's expression shifted from irritation to alert focus. How do you know this? The same way I recognized the flaws in your swordplay, he replied. Perception beyond ordinary senses. She studied him for a long moment before nodding once. Dawn breaks in an hour. We'll move then. The disturbance may not wait for daylight. And tracking through these forests at night guarantees ambush, she countered firmly. Even with your unusual abilities, caution serves better than haste here. Naruto concealed his surprise at her tactical assessment, recognizing its wisdom. Agreed. We'll use the time to prepare. As pre-dawn light filtered through the canopy, Naruto guided Ghislaine through meditative exercises designed to enhance her connection to her sword. Though initially skeptical, she quickly recognized the value as her awareness of the weapon's balance and energy flow deepened. The sword is not merely a tool, Naruto explained, drawing on Ryujin's ancient knowledge of weaponry. At its highest level, it becomes an extension of your will, neither separate nor quite the same, but a perfect harmony of purpose. Ghislaine closed her eyes, focusing on the sensation. I've glimpsed this during my most intense battle. Moments when thought and action became one. Those moments can become your constant state with proper training. Her eyes opened, meeting his with newfound determination. Teach me. We've already begun. As they prepared to depart, Naruto sensed Ghislaine's curious glances. Finally, she voiced her thoughts. You claim to be human, yet move like no human I've encountered. You wield magic unlike any known tradition. Your eyes change when you channel power. Her tail swished thoughtfully. What are you really, Naruto Uzumaki? A fair question, Ryujin commented internally. How much will you reveal? Naruto considered carefully before answering. I am transformed. Once fully human, now something more complex. My journey brought me across boundaries most cannot comprehend. A vague answer, she observed. Though without accusation, the complete truth would sound like madness, he replied honestly. I'll share more as we build trust. For now, know that my abilities stem from both human determination and something far older, something connected to the dragon legends you mentioned. Surprisingly, Ghislaine seemed satisfied with this partial explanation. The old ones of my tribe speak of the time when dragons shaped the world. They say dragon blood sometimes manifests in mortal lineages. She shouldered her massive blade. Your arrival amid awakening ancient powers cannot be coincidence. On that, we agree. They traveled northeast through increasingly dense forest. Naruto noted how the vegetation itself seemed twisted and malformed the further they progressed, trees growing at impossible angles. Flowers with too many petals, vines that seemed to shift position when not directly observed. The boundary between normal forest and the truly cursed regions, Ghislaine explained quietly. Corrupted mana warps everything it touches. Naruto extended his senses, feeling the unnatural currents in the ambient energy. The corruption has patterns, almost like seal work. This isn't entirely natural. Seal work, she questioned. A technique from my homeland. The ability to bind, direct, or transform energy through specific patterns. Before he could elaborate, Naruto detected movement ahead, multiple signatures approaching rapidly. Company, he murmured. 12 entities, moving in formation. Not beasts. Something more organized. Ghislaine's nostrils flared as she caught their scent. Demon scouts. Light infantry, likely armed with poisoned weapons. She drew her sword with practiced ease. Standard procedure is to capture rather than kill. They value information. Naruto raised an eyebrow. You've encountered them before. 3 times. Her expression darkened. Lost good warriors to their poisons. Then we'll need to adjust our approach. Naruto closed his eyes briefly, accessing Ryujin's knowledge of demonic entities. Their poison likely targets the central nervous system. I can fortify our resistance temporarily. He placed D2 fingers against Ghislaine's forehead, channeling carefully calibrated draconic energy into her system. She flinched at the contact but held steady, her eyes widening as she felt the warm energy spreading through her body. What did you? Temporary protection. It won't last beyond this encounter. The demons emerged from the underbrush, humanoid figures with mottled gray skin, elongated limbs, and faces that seemed almost melted, features sliding unnaturally as they moved. They wielded curved daggers that dripped viscous purple fluid. Surround and subdue, their leader hissed in awe. NGU age that Naruto somehow understood, Ryujin's knowledge providing instant translation. They underestimate us, Naruto observed calmly. That gives us advantage. Ghislaine nodded, shifting into her opening stance. Lead or follow? Neither. We fight as equals. Their first coordinated attack took the demons by surprise. While Ghislaine launched a devastating frontal assault with her massive blade, Naruto circled with preternatural speed, striking pressure points that temporarily paralyzed demonic physiology. 3 demons fell in the initial exchange, but the remainder quickly adapted. forming a defensive circle while their leader chanted in their guttural language. The air thickened with malevolent energy. Summoning ritual, Naruto warned, recognizing the patterns in the demonic mana. We need to interrupt the caster. Quote. Ghislaine responded instantly, her sword blurring as she executed a complex maneuver that created an opening in their formation. Naruto capitalized immediately, channeling draconic energy through his palm. Ryujin no Kiba, a spear of concentrated golden energy formed in his hand, which he hurled with precise aim. The spear pierced the demon caster's chest, disrupting the summoning ritual and causing the accumulated energy to backfire. A concussive wave knocked the remaining demons off balance, giving Ghislaine the opening she needed to eliminate 3 more with a sweeping attack. The final 5 demons, recognizing their disadvantage, attempted to flee. Naruto caught 2 with paralysis strikes, while Ghislaine dispatched another. The last pair disappeared into the twisted undergrowth. We should pursue, Ghislaine insisted, already moving to follow. Naruto placed a restraining hand on her arm. They're running toward reinforcements, at least 30 more signatures ahead. This was merely a scouting party. She hesitated, clearly torn between tactical wisdom and warrior instinct. Sometimes the wiser course is indirect, Naruto added gently. If we're to discover what's causing the disturbance, we need more information, not just more combat. After a moment's internal struggle, Ghislaine nodded reluctantly. What do you suggest? Let's question one of these. Naruto indicated the paralyzed demons. Then circle around their main force to investigate the source directly. The interrogation proved challenging but informative. The demon, despite its inhuman features, displayed very human fear when faced with Naruto's glowing, slitted eyes and the palpable aura of draconic power he projected. Excavation, it finally revealed in broken common tongue. Ancient power. Master Velshar seeks dragon metal beneath earth. What is this dragon metal? Ghislaine demanded. The demon's features contorted in what might have been confusion. Old magic, solid magic, makes weapons that cut worlds. Naruto and Ghislaine exchanged significant glances. And this Velshar, who is he? Naruto pressed. High cultist of the Devourer, the demon whispered. True fear evident now, he who prepares the way for the master's return. The Devourer, Ryujin's voice rumbled within Naruto. The entity that consumed my brethren. It seems. My old enemy's servants remain active in this world. Asterisk. After extracting what information they could, they left the demon bound but alive, a decision Ghislaine questioned. It will escape eventually and report our presence, she argued. Yes, Naruto agreed calmly. And it will report encountering a being with draconic power. That information may force this Velshar to reveal more of his plans through hasty action. Ghislaine's eyes widened slightly. You're using yourself as bait. Information is often worth more than a quick victory. Circling wide around the main demon force required several hours of careful navigation through increasingly corrupted terrain. Ghislaine demonstrated remarkable tracking skills, identifying safe passages through areas that appeared identical to Naruto's eyes. Beast tribe instinct, she explained when he commented on her ability. We sense wrongness in ways humans typically cannot. By mid-afternoon, they reached an elevated position overlooking a massive excavation site. What had once been a forested valley had been transformed into a gaping pit nearly half a mile across. Hundreds of demons labored under the supervision of robed figures, digging methodically into exposed bedrock where veins of iridescent metal gleamed. Dragon metal, Naruto murmured, Ryujin's memories providing identification. Conduit material that can channel and amplify draconic energy. Incredibly rare and nearly indestructible once properly forged. Ghislaine studied the operation with a warrior's eye. Too many to engage directly. What are they building with this material? Nothing good. Naruto focused his enhanced vision on a partially constructed object near the center of the excavation, a circular frame approximately 20 feet in diameter, already incorporating segments of the gleaming metal. A gateway, I think. Designed to open passages between worlds or dimensions. For what purpose? To bring something through, or to send something out? Their observation was interrupted by a sudden shift in the excavation activity. The laborers withdrew from the pit as a tall figure in elaborate robes entered the central area. Even at this distance, Naruto could sense the corrupted power emanating from the individual. Velshar, I presume, he muttered. The cultist raised his arms, beginning a complex ritual. the exposed veins of dragon metal eye, and the pit began to glow with pulsating light, responding to his incantations. He's attempting to activate the dormant properties of the metal prematurely, Ryujin warned. Without proper preparation, the resulting energy release could devastate everything within miles. Asterisk. We need to disrupt that ritual, Naruto said urgently. Even if we can't stop their operation entirely, we can prevent immediate catastrophe. Ghislaine gripped her sword. Direct assault would be suicide. Not assault. Distraction. Naruto quickly outlined a plan, drawing on both his shinobi experience with sabotage and Ryujin's knowledge of draconic energies. Minutes later, Ghislaine had circled to the opposite ridge while Naruto prepared a complex array of energy signatures designed to mimic multiple draconic presences approaching from the north. As Velshar's ritual reached its crescendo, Naruto activated his deception. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The cultists' concentration broke as alarms sounded throughout the excavation. Guards rushed northward, responding to the phantom energy signatures Naruto had created. Simultaneously, Ghislaine executed her part of the plan, triggering a controlled landslide that cascaded into the southern edge of the pit, burying critical sections of exposed dragon metal and disrupting the energy patterns Velshar had been establishing. Chaos erupted across the excavation site. Naruto used the confusion to observe Velshar's reaction, capturing details of the cultist's appearance and magical signature for future reference. The robed figure's rage was palpable even at this distance, his aura flaring with corrupted power as he barked orders to contain the damage. Time to withdraw, Naruto murmured, though Ghislaine couldn't hear him across the distance. Trusting her warrior's instinct to recognize the moment for retreat, he began his own strategic withdrawal. They rendezvoused an hour later at a predetermined location, both having evaded pursuit through different routes. Effective, Ghislaine acknowledged, a hint of respect coloring her tone. Though temporary, they'll dig out the collapsed section within days. But the ritual is disrupted. And we've gathered critical intelligence, Naruto replied. We know who leads them, what they seek, and something of their purpose. More importantly, we've survived to use that information. As they established a new camp several miles from the excavation site, Naruto noticed Ghislaine watching him with thoughtful intensity. Your strategy was sound, she said finally. Few warriors understand the value of selective engagement and strategic withdrawal. Most would have attempted a glorious but futile direct assault. Glory means little to the dead, Naruto replied, and less to those they failed to protect by dying needlessly. Her tail swished contemplatively, a lesson many of my tribe could benefit from. After a pause, she added, you promised training. Despite today's interruptions, I would still learn. Naruto smiled, appreciating her focus. Your dedication honors both of us. Let's begin with what we observed today. He guided her through a detailed analysis of the demon scout's fighting techniques, identifying weaknesses that could be exploited with proper sword techniques. Then they moved to practical application, with Naruto demonstrating modifications to her existing forms that would counter specific demonic attack patterns. As twilight deepened around them, Ghislaine executed a complex sequence of strikes with newfound precision, her blade whistling through the air in perfect arcs. Better, Naruto acknowledged, but you're still thinking of each movement separately. True mastery comes when the 17 forms flow as one continuous expression. She lowered her sword, breathing heavily from exertion. You speak of the continuous flow, a technique supposedly mastered only by sword kings. It's attainable earlier with proper understanding, Naruto countered. The secret lies not in moving faster, but in eliminating the mental transitions between forms. He stepped behind her, adjusting her grip slightly. Hold the intention of the entire sequence in your mind before beginning. Like a musician who sees the entire composition, not just individual notes. Ghislaine closed her eyes, visualizing as instructed. When she opened them, something shifted in her expression, a deeper focus, almost meditative. She began the sequence again, and while not perfect, the transitions between forms showed marked improvement. Yes, Naruto encouraged. Feel the difference. That's the beginning of true mastery. Later, as they shared a simple meal of foraged plants and dried meat from Ghislaine's provisions, she broached the subject that clearly had been on her mind throughout the day. You called your technique Ryujin no Kiba, during the battle. Dragon God's Fang. Her amber eyes reflected the firelight as she studied him. The old story's peak of dragon gods who could take human form to walk among mortals. Naruto considered his response carefully. What would you say if I told you those stories contain truth? I would say that incidences accumulate too rapidly around you to be dismissed. Her gaze remained steady. Are you claiming to be a dragon god? No, and yes. Naruto sighed, deciding that partial honesty would serve better than continued evasion. I was fully human once, from a world different from this one. Through circumstances I'm still coming to understand, my soul merged with that of Ryujin, the last of this world's dragon gods, who fell in ancient battle against an entity known as the Devourer. He expected disbelief, perhaps even laughter. Instead, Ghislaine nodded slowly, as if his explanation confirmed suspicions she'd already formed. The beast tribes maintain oral traditions from before written history, she said quietly. Tales of the dragon wars, when the gods themselves battled across the heavens. Of how the greatest among them, Ryujin of the eastern skies, sacrificed himself to prevent the Devourer from attaining absolute power. She leaned forward, studying his features with new intensity. The elders said Ryujin's essence was scattered across dimensions, that someday it might return in a new form when the world faced great peril. You believe such stories? Naruto asked, genuinely curious. I believe what my senses tell me, she replied simply. And they tell me you carry power unlike anything in this world. Whether you call it dragon essence or something else matters little compared to what you do with it. Quote, her practical perspective surprised and impressed him. And if what I've told you is true, does it change your desire for training? Ghislaine's expression hardened with determination. It strengthens it. If ancient powers stir and threats like this Velshar seek to exploit them, then the world needs those strong enough to stand against them. Her tail lashed once, decisively. I would become the Sword King not merely for personal glory, but to protect what matters. Naruto smiled, recognizing the echo of his own ninja way in her words. Then we continue your training at dawn. But first, rest. Even future Sword Kings require sleep. As Ghislaine settled into her bedroll, Naruto remained awake, communing silently with Ryujin's consciousness while monitoring their surroundings. She took that revelation better than expected, the dragon aspect observed. Her people preserved knowledge others forgot, Naruto replied internally. And she trusts her instincts above conventional wisdom. Qualities that will serve her well as a Sword King. But her path, and ours, grows more complex now that the Devourer's cult has revealed itself. Naruto gazed into the night sky, noting how unfamiliar star patterns glittered above this alien world that was now his home. One challenge at a time. Tomorrow, we continue her training while planning our next move regarding Velshar's operation. And what of the dragon metal? Its existence cannot be unknown to others with sensitivity to such energies. A valid concern. Naruto closed his eyes, extending his awareness outward. The magical currents of this world felt increasingly familiar as his merged nature adapted to them. In the far distance, beyond the range of normal senses, he detected a faint but distinctive resonance, another source of draconic energy, different from the excavation site but equally powerful. You feel it, Ryujin acknowledged. Another awakening. This world stirs from long magical slumber, for good or ill. Naruto opened his eyes, decision made. We'll investigate after Ghislaine's initial training phase. If multiple dragon artifacts are activating simultaneously, we need to understand the pattern. As if in response to his thoughts, the distant draconic energy pulsed once, strongly enough that even in sleep, Ghislaine's ears twitched toward its direction. The pieces were moving on a board larger than either of them yet comprehended. But for now, Naruto embraced the familiar role of mentor, finding unexpected satisfaction in guiding a worthy student toward her potential. The larger questions of his purpose in this world, and the growing threat of the Devourer's cult, would wait for dawn. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, Scales of Destiny. Dawn arrived with sullen reluctance. Gray light filtering through mist-shrouded canopy. Ghislaine rose from her bedroll with a warrior's discipline, instantly alert despite the previous day's exertions. She found Naruto already awake, seated in meditation at the camp's edge. You didn't sleep, she observed, not a question but a statement. Naruto opened eyes that briefly flashed with reptilian verticality before settling into human appearance. My current condition requires less rest than you might expect. She accepted this with a practical nod, efficiently packing her few belongings while maintaining awareness of their surroundings. The forest seemed unnaturally quiet this morning. No birdsong, no rustling of small creatures in the underbrush. The ambient magic grows more disturbed, Naruto explained, noting her attention to the silence. That energy signature we detected yesterday has intensified overnight. Ghislaine rolled her shoulders, loosening muscles in preparation for the day's journey. How far? Perhaps 6 hours northeast, assuming direct travel. Her tail flicked once in acknowledgement. We should avoid the excavation site. Adding 2 hours to circle west would be prudent. Agreed. They broke camp with minimal conversation, falling into an efficient rhythm that suggested years of partnership rather than days. As they traveled, Naruto continued Ghislaine's training, earning their journey into a moving lesson. Maintain your center while navigating difficult terrain, he instructed as they crossed a series of fallen logs spanning a ravine. The sword is merely an extension of your balanced core. Ghislaine adapted quickly, adjusting her movements to incorporate his guidance. Where once she had leapt powerfully but rigidly across obstacles, she now flowed like water. Her massive frame displaying surprising grace. The beast tribes emphasize power and ferocity, she explained during a brief rest. We're taught to overwhelm opponents through superior strength and speed. Valuable attributes, Naruto acknowledged, but limiting when faced with enemies who possess different advantages. True mastery comes from adaptability. To demonstrate, he guided her through exercises designed to counter opponents of various sizes and fighting styles. For smaller, faster opponents, he taught her to control space rather than pursue direct strikes. For larger, stronger foes, he showed techniques to redirect momentum rather than oppose it directly. Combat is conversation, he explained, parrying her practice strikes with minimal movement. Each attack poses a question. Each defense offers an answer. Listen to what your opponent tells you through their movements. Ghislaine absorbed these lessons with remarkable speed, her natural talent accelerated by genuine dedication. By midday, her swordsmanship already showed subtle but significant improvements, more fluid transitions, greater economy of motion, increased awareness of spatial relationships. As they approached a swift-flowing river, Naruto paused, his enhanced senses detecting something beyond ordinary perception. The water carries magical residue, he observed, kneeling to examine the unnaturally azure current. Someone has performed significant magic upstream recently. Ghislaine sniffed the air, her beast senses complementing his draconic awareness. Elven magic. Their spells carry a distinctive scent, like frost on pine needles. You have experience with elven mages. Her expression darkened slightly. They rarely interact with beast tribes except when their forests are threatened. Proud and isolationist, but formidable allies when circumstances force cooperation. Naruto dipped his fingers into the water, feeling the magical current intertwine with the physical one. Images flickered through his mind, glimpses of ancient stonework, azure light, and a slender figure performing complex gestures. Our destination has another visitor, he concluded. Someone with considerable magical talent. They followed the river upstream, moving with increased caution. The forest gradually changed character, older trees, more massive and gnarled, with stone formations emerging from the underbrush like the bones of the earth itself. Ancient ground, Ghislaine murmured. The elders speak of places where the world remembers its shaping. Few such places remain unspoiled. The ambient magic grew palpably thicker as they advanced, tingles of power raising the fine hairs on Naruto's arms. Within him, Ryujin's consciousness stirred with recognition. This place held meaning for my kind. The dragon god's voice resonated internally. A gathering place from the early days, when we still walked openly among mortals. They crested a wooded ridge and paused at the site below. A massive clearing opened before them, dominated by concentric rings of megalithic stones. At the center stood what appeared to be a temple of sorts, weather-worn columns surrounding a raised dais. The entire structure gleamed with faint iridescence, similar to the dragon metal they had observed at the excavation site. More immediately concerning were the dozen armed figures surrounding a lone individual on the temple dais. Even at this distance, the standoff was evident. the solitary figure maintained a defensive position while the armed group kept a wary perimeter. Mercenaries, Ghislaine identified, her enhanced vision discerning details Naruto hadn't yet focused on. Mixed human and demi-human. Professional equipment. The one they surround appears to be an elf. Naruto extended his senses, assessing the magical energies in play. The elf at the center radiated controlled power, disciplined, precise, and distinctly cold in its resonance. Ice affinity, he surmised, complemented by scholarly precision. They haven't attacked yet, he observed. They want something the elf possesses or knows. Ghislaine's hand moved instinctively to her sword hilt. We intervene. Naruto considered their options. Information first. Let's move closer and assess the situation more thoroughly. They descended the ridge using natural cover, Naruto guiding them through blind spots in the mercenaries' perimeter watch. As they drew nearer, conversations became audible. Final warning. Lady Frostweave, a gruff human voice carried across the temple grounds. Lord Casparian's patience grows thin. The artifact belongs in proper hands. Proper hands. The response came in a crystalline feminine voice, each word precisely enunciated with subtle elven accent. Like those who devastated the southern ruins. Your employer's definition of proper seems conveniently self-serving. From their concealed position at the temple's edge, Naruto and Ghislaine could now clearly observe the standoff. The elf woman stood with perfect posture on the central dais, one hand gripping an ornate staff topped with a pale blue crystal, the other holding what appeared to be an ancient tablet inscribed with unfamiliar script. Her silver-white hair was intricately braided, framing features of ethereal beauty marked by the characteristic pointed ears of her race. Most striking were her eyes, pale violet and pupilless, yet clearly seeing everything around her. Beautiful but cold, Ghislaine whispered. Typical of high elven mages. The mercenary leader, a burly human with elaborate facial scarring, maintained a cautious distance from the elf. Casparian offers 10,000 gold imperials for the tablet and safe passage from his territories. Generous terms, considering he could simply order your execution for trespassing. Hollow threats, Captain Rieger. The elf's expression remained impassive. We both know elven reprisal would make such an action politically untenable. Besides, her lips curved in the slightest smile. You lack the magical capability to breach my defenses before I completed a translocation spell. The mercenary captain's face darkened with poorly concealed frustration. Perhaps, but translocating requires concentration, which would be difficult to maintain if, say, your precious tablet were suddenly at risk. He gestured to an archer who nocked an arrow, aiming not at the elf but at the tablet in her hand. Naruto had seen enough. He glanced at Ghislaine, who nodded in understanding, already positioning herself for a flanking maneuver. Now, he whispered. Their intervention unfolded with choreographed precision. Ghislaine burst from cover with explosive speed, her massive blade cleaving the archer's bow before he could loose his shot. Simultaneously, Naruto appeared atop one of the stone columns flanking the dais, golden energy swirling around his outstretched palm. I suggest reconsidering your negotiation tactics, Captain, Naruto called down. His voice carrying subtle harmonic resonance that made several mercenaries step back instinctively. The elven woman showed no surprise at their appearance, her pupilless eyes assessing them with clinical detachment. The mercenary captain, however, whirled with alarmed rage. Who in the 17 hells are you? He demanded, hand moving to his sword. Concerned parties, Naruto replied calmly. It seems your employer's interest in this site aligns with certain troubling activities we've recently observed. Ghislaine had positioned herself strategically between two more archers, her blade held in relaxed readiness that nonetheless communicated imminent threat. The tablet stays with the elf, she stated flatly. Unless you wish to test whether your healing potions can reattach limbs. The captain's eyes narrowed as he reassessed the situation. Casparian doesn't take kindly to interference. Neither do we, Naruto countered, allowing his eyes to shift momentarily to their draconic aspect. The mercenary captain flinched visibly at the transformation. After a tense moment, the captain made a brusque gesture to his men. We're withdrawing. For now. He fixed the elven woman with a hard stare. This isn't finished, Lady Frostweave. Casparian will hear of this interference. The mercenaries retreated with professional discipline despite their evident frustration. Naruto maintained his position until they had disappeared into the forest, then leapt down to the dais with inhuman grace. The elven woman regarded them with cool assessment, her defensive posture relaxing marginally but not disappearing. An unexpected intervention. You have my gratitude, though I would know your purpose here. We followed traces of draconic energy, Naruto explained. This Te holds significance beyond ordinary ruins. Her eyes widened fractionally, the first genuine emotion she had displayed. You perceive the draconic resonance. Fascinating. Few beyond the Arcanum Celestis possess such sensitivity. Ghislaine joined them on the dais, sheathing her sword but remaining alert. We observed excavation of similar material nearby. Demon cultists extract it under direction of a mage named Velshar. This information produced a more pronounced reaction. The elf's posture stiffened, and frost momentarily crystallized along her staff. Velshar. She spoke the name like a curse. The Crimson Hand's chief archaeomancer. Their depredations have escalated in recent months. Her pupilless gaze shifted between them with new interest. You've encountered their operation directly. Yesterday, Naruto confirmed. They're harvesting dragon metal for construction of what appears to be a dimensional gateway. The elf woman's composure faltered momentarily before reasserting itself. Concerning, if accurate, she seemed to reach a decision, inclining her head formally. I am Lyra Frostweave, Arcanist of the Seventh Circle, researcher with the Elven Conservatory of Historical Preservation. Naruto Uzumaki. He returned the formal tone, understanding its importance in Elven custom. And my companion, Ghislaine Dedoldia of the Dedoldia tribe. A beast warrior and, Lyra paused, studying Naruto with scholarly intensity. Something not quite human, though wearing humanity comfortably. Curious companions indeed. Ghislaine's tail swished with mild irritation. We can discuss nature and origins later. What's the significance of this site and that tablet? Lyra's expression remained composed, but her fingers tightened almost imperceptibly around the ancient stone. This site is what my people call a dragon nexus, a location where the dragon gods once gathered to shape the world's magical currents. The tablet contains script in the draconic tongue, documenting specific rites performed here. She gestured to the concentric stone rings surrounding them. These megaliths are not merely stone but crystallized mana, repositories of magical knowledge and power from an age when dragons walked among mortals. Naruto felt Ryujin's consciousness stir within him, memories resonating with the sight. Without conscious intention, he found himself walking to one particular megalith. Placing his palm against its weathered surface. Golden light spread from his touch, illuminating previously invisible script etched deep within the stone. Ancient glyphs glowed in response, spiraling across the megalith's surface like awakening thoughts. Impossible, Lyra whispered, academic detachment temporarily abandoned. Those inscriptions have remained dormant for millennia. Even our most accomplished archivists could only theorize their existence. I remember this place, Ryujin's voice echoed in Naruto's mind. When the world was young, we gathered here to establish the boundaries between realms. The stones record our covenant with the nascent world. Asterisk. The covenant of realms, Naruto murmured, words coming unbidden to his lips. Established in the third age of creation. When the dragon gods designated pathways between dimensions and those that must remain sealed. Lyra approached slowly, her staff lowered in genuine astonishment. You read the high draconic script. And not merely translate, you speak with the cadence of first-hand knowledge. Her pupilless eyes narrowed with sudden understanding. Dragon blessed, you carry draconic essence. Ghislaine watched this exchange with practical interest, her tail swishing thoughtfully. He claims to host the consciousness of Ryujin, last of the dragon gods. The elven woman's composure faltered completely at this revelation. Ryujin, the eastern heaven dragon who fell fighting the devourer. She switched suddenly to an ancient elven dialect, words flowing like crystalline water. By the first light and eternal ice, I stand before the twice-born serpent foretold in the frost prophecies. Naruto responded in the same ancient tongue, knowledge flowing from Ryujin's memories. The Hesses are fragmented echoes of possibility, daughter of the evergreen. Neither destiny nor certainty, but pathways illuminated. Lyra stepped back, genuine emotion transforming her features. Speak Old Sylvan with the accent of the first days. She composed herself with visible effort. Forgive my lapse. Among my people, maintaining emotional equilibrium is considered essential to proper magical control. Understandable, Naruto acknowledged, but perhaps we should continue this conversation while moving. Those mercenaries will likely report to their employer, and I sense this site may soon draw additional attention. The elven woman nodded, her practical nature reasserting itself. A prudent suggestion. My camp lies half a league east, adequately warded against casual discovery. As they departed the temple complex, Naruto maintained awareness of the magical currents flowing through the ancient stones. Something had awakened here, not merely the inscriptions his touch had illuminated, but deeper patterns in the fundamental energy of the site itself. The nexus recognizes us, Ryujin confirmed internally. After millennia of dormancy, the network of draconic sites begins to reactivate. This will draw attention from many quarters, some beneficial, others decidedly not. Asterisk. Lyra's camp proved to be a model of elven efficiency, a small clearing protected by nearly invisible wards, containing a single elegantly designed tent and a precisely arranged study area. Scrolls and measuring instruments lay organized on a portable writing desk, while crystalline devices of unknown purpose monitored the surrounding magical atmosphere. Impressive field research setup, Naruto observed, recognizing the sophistication of her equipment. The conservatory values proper documentation, Lyra replied, carefully placing the tablet among her other findings. Though I doubt even our most comprehensive protocols anticipated encountering a dragon-blessed individual. Ghislaine had been examining the wards with professional interest. These defenses are well crafted but focused on magical detection. Physical infiltration would be possible for a skilled tracker. Rather than taking offense, Lyra nodded thoughtfully. A valid assessment. My expertise lies in archaeological thaumaturgy rather than defensive warding. Perhaps you might suggest improvements. This pragmatic response seemed to raise Ghislaine's estimation of the elf. She proceeded to identify specific vulnerabilities while Lyra listened attentively, occasionally asking pertinent questions that revealed genuine interest rather than wounded pride. Naruto observed this exchange with approval, noting how quickly the two women established a professional rapport despite their cultural differences. Meanwhile, he examined the tablet Lyra had defended so fiercely, Ryujin's knowledge allowing him to comprehend inscriptions that would have been meaningless otherwise. This documents the creation of 7 nexus points, he noted aloud, positioned to stabilize the boundaries between this world and others. Lyra turned from her conversation with Ghislaine, eyes widening with scholarly excitement. You can read it completely. My translation attempts have been fragmentary at best. The script uses layered meaning. Each symbol contains 3 interpretations depending on context. Naruto traced a particular glyph. This indicates not merely a location but a purpose, the nexus of binding, where chaotic energies were sealed. Fascinating. Lyra abandoned all pretense of detachment, moving closer to observe his translation process. The conservatory has struggled with these texts for centuries. Your insights could advance our understanding by decades. As evening approached, they shared in form. Asian around a carefully contained magelight that Lyra conjured, a sphere of blue-white illumination that provided light without heat or smoke that might attract attention. The Crimson Hand has orated their activities across the continent, Lyra explained, creating an illusory map in the air above them. Points of red light indicated locations of reported activity. Previously, they operated with subtlety, acquiring artifacts through intermediaries like Kasparian. Recent months have seen a shift to direct excavation using demon labor. Coinciding with my arrival in this world, Naruto noted, the merging of Ryujin's essence with mine created magical ripples that may have awakened dormant energies, or alerted those sensitive to draconic power. Ghislaine, who had been maintaining a watchful perimeter, rejoined the conversation. You mentioned a devourer. What exactly threatened the dragon gods? Naruto closed his eyes briefly, accessing Ryujin's ancient memories. An entity owned between dimensions. Neither god nor demon as this world understands them, but something that consumed magical essences to grow stronger. It began as a minor threat but eventually developed the ability to absorb draconic power directly. Our histories call it Katazoth, the hollow hunger, Lyra added. Elven records describe it as emptiness given purpose, a void that sought to fill itself with the fundamental energies of creation. The dragon gods united against it, Naruto continued, images flowing from Ryujin's consciousness. A final battle was fought across multiple dimensions. When defeat seemed imminent, Ryujin sacrificed himself, shattering his essence across realities to deny the devourer its prize. And now fragments of that essence have reconstituted within you, Lyra concluded. A fascinating metaphysical phenomenon, but it raises concerning questions. If Ryujin's essence could reconstitute after millennia, might the devourers as well? The question hung heavily in the night air. Ghislaine, ever practical, broke the ominous silence. Speculation serves little purpose without information. What concrete steps can we take now? Lyra nodded appreciatively at this pragmatic approach. The tablet mentions 7 nexus points. If the Crimson Hand seeks dragon metal from these sites, we should identify their locations before they do. The excavation we observed yesterday suggests they've already found at least one, Naruto pointed out. True, but they lack the ability to translate the coordinates properly. Lyra gestured to the tablet. Without understanding the layered meaning of the script, they'll waste resources on inefficient extraction. Can you create a map of all 7 sites based on the tablet? Ghislaine asked. With assistance. Lyra looked meaningfully at Naruto. The complete translation requires draconic insight. Thus began an intensive collaboration, with Naruto translating the ancient script while Lyra applied her cartographic expertise to plot the locations. Ghislaine maintained security, occasionally offering practical observations that helped contextualize geographical features mentioned in the text. As the night deepened, their work produced results, a detailed map identifying 7 draconic nexus points spread across the continent. The site they had visited today represented the nexus of knowledge. The excavation He had observed yesterday corresponded to the nexus of transition. 5 more remained. The nexus of binding, creation, harmony, dissolution, and confluence. The pattern suggests purpose beyond mere geography, Lyra observed. Studying their completed map, each nexus appears positioned to regulate different aspects of magical flow throughout the world. A system of checks and balances, Naruto agreed. Designed to prevent any single magical tradition from dominating others. Ghislaine, who had been quietly observing their work, pointed to a specific location. The nexus of binding lies wi. Thin Beast Tribe territories, lands my people consider sacred but have never known why. And the nexus of creation appears to be beneath the crystalline depths, Lyra noted with concern. The deepest region of elven territory, virtually inaccessible to outsiders, which means others will also face obstacles accessing them, Naruto pointed out. But it also means we can't protect all sites simultaneously. They spent hours debating strategy, weighing priorities against practical limitations. Eventually, a consensus emerged. They would first secure the nexus of binding in Beast Tribe territory. Both to protect Ghislaine's people and because its function, sealing chaotic energies, seemed most immediately relevant to preventing the Devourer's potential return. This alliance has potential, Lyra acknowledged as they concluded their planning. My magical knowledge, Ghislaine's combat expertise, and your draconic insights complement each other effectively. An alliance requires trust, Ghislaine noted, her direct gaze challenging the elven woman. Your people and mine have history, not all of it pleasant. Lyra met her gaze unflinchingly. True, ancient prejudices persist on both sides. But common threats require setting aside old grievances. After a measured pause, she added, my sister lies in stasis in the conservatory's healing chambers, afflicted by a magical malady that defies conventional treatment. Draconic knowledge may offer answers conventional magic cannot. My personal stake in this alliance transcends politics. This unexpected vulnerability from the previous why reserved elf shifted the dynamic subtly. Ghislaine's expression softened marginally. Family is understood by all peoples. You have my word as a Dedoldia warrior that our alliance stands until either victory or honorable death. Naruto observed this exchange with approval, recognizing the foundation of genuine respect forming between two individuals from traditionally adversarial cultures. As their allies settled into rest rotations, Naruto used the opportunity to meditate, delving deeper into his connection with Ryujin. The proximity to the nexus of knowledge had strengthened their mental communication, allowing more detailed sharing of memories and insights. The tablet reveals more than mere locations, Ryujin's consciousness noted. It hints at the original purpose of the nexus. Network, not merely to stabilize magical energies, but to prepare the world for eventual self-governance. Asterisk. The dragon gods plan to withdraw. Naruto questioned internally. All creators must eventually allow their creations independence. Asterisk came the resonant reply. We designed the Nexus system to maintain balance after our departure, allowing the younger races to develop their own relationships with magic without inadvertently destroying themselves through excess. Asterisk. Images flowed between their merged consciousness, visions of the world's early days, when dragons soared openly across pristine skies, guiding the development of nascent civilizations. Naruto glimpsed the founding of the beast tribes, the awakening of elven consciousness, the first human cities, and the emergence of dwarven culture from the heart of mountains. The younger races remember fragments of this history through myths and legends, Naruto observed. But the true purpose of the dragon gods has been forgotten. Intentionally so. Direct knowledge of our plans would have interfered with natural development. Better they find their own path, with the Nexus system providing subtle guidance rather than obvious intervention. Asterisk. Their communion was interrupted by a gentle touch on his shoulder. Naruto opened his eyes to find Lyra regarding him with scholarly interest. Your meditation aura fluctuates between human and draconic patterns, she observed. Fascinating harmonic resonance. Among my people, such magical synchronization requires decades of practice. It's still developing, Naruto acknowledged. Quote, sometimes Ryujin's memories flow more easily than others. Lyra settled beside him, her natural grace making even this simple movement appear choreographed. The ancient texts speak of dragon blessé, individuals, mortals who carried a fraction of draconic essence. But nothing on the scale you exhibit. Her pupilless eyes studied him with clinical detachment softened by genuine curiosity. May I ask how it feels? The question caught him off guard with its directness. Like being simultaneously more and less than I was, he answered after consideration. My human experiences and emotions remain intact. But they're now contextualized within millennia of draconic memory. Simple joys retain their intensity, but against a backdrop of ancient perspective. Lyra nodded thoughtfully. Balance between immediacy and eternity, the fundamental challenge of elven existence as well. We live for centuries, watching shorter-lived races experience life with intensity we both envy and pity. This philosophical insight revealed depths beneath her scholarly exterior that Naruto hadn't fully appreciated. Your interest in these ruins transcends academic curiosity, he observed. A flicker of emotion crossed her features before she controlled it. My sister, Selena, researched draconic artifacts before me. During an expedition to ruins similar to these, she encountered an anomaly, a crystallized fragment of chaotic energy. Despite protective measures, exposure left her in a state between life and death. Her voice remained even, but frost crystals formed briefly along her fingertips, betraying her emotional state. Conventional healing magic proves insufficient. I seek alternatives in ancient knowledge. A noble purpose, Naruto acknowledged. And one I respect. The beast woman respects it as well. Though she expresses such things differently. Lyra glanced toward where Ghislaine maintained vigilant watch at the camp's perimeter. Her kind values direct action and clear purpose. Complicated motivations make them suspicious. She understands more than you might expect, Naruto corrected gently. Beast tribes emphasize family bonds and sacrifice for kin above most other values. Dawn arrived with pearlescent light filtering through morning mist. As they prepared to depart for Beast Tribe territories, Naruto continued Ghislaine's training, incorporating the unique environment of the ancient ruins into their practice. Use the megalithic patterns to create geometric awareness, he instructed as they moved through defensive sequences. When fighting multiple opponents, spatial relationships become as important as individual technique. Ghislaine adapted quickly, her natural combat instincts enhanced by his guidance. When she executed a particularly challenging maneuver, pivoting between two stone columns while maintaining perfect blade control, Naruto noted approval in Lyra's observation. Impressive kinesthetic intelligence, the elf commented. Few achieve spatial precision without magical enhancement. Beast tribe warriors develop bodily awareness from childhood, Ghislaine explained, neither boastful nor defensive, simply stating fact. Our survival often depends on physical capability rather than magical advantage. Different traditions, Complementary strengths, Naruto observed. Which is why the dragon gods established balanced systems rather than elevating any single approach. Quote, their philosophical discussion was abruptly terminated by Ghislaine's raised hand, the universal signal for silence. Her ears swiveled alertly, detecting sounds beyond human hearing range. Multiple approaches, organized movement patterns. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Not the mercenaries from yesterday. Different footfalls, heavier, some distinctly non-human. Lyra closed her eyes briefly, extending magical awareness through her wards. My perimeter alarms detect 12 entities approaching from multiple directions. Magical signatures indicate MI. Ext group. Combat mages and enhanced warriors. Naruto extended his draconic senses, confirming their assessments while adding additional details. They've established a containment formation. Professional coordination. 2 are channeling binding magic, likely intended to restrict draconic energy. Crimson Hand, Lyra concluded grimly. They've prioritized this site after yesterday's confrontation. We're outnumbered, Ghislaine noted pragmatically, and potentially surrounded. Naruto assessed their options quickly. Direct confrontation serves no purpose when our priority is securing the map and knowledge we've gained. Tactical withdrawal is our best option. My translocation magic can extract us, Lyra offered, but requires preparation time and consumes significant mana. We'll create that time, Naruto decided. Ghislaine, northeastern quadrant shows the thinnest containment. We'll break through there while creating misdirection elsewhere. What followed demonstrated the rapidly developing coordination between the 3 allies. While Lyra began her complex translocation ritual, Ghislaine and Naruto executed a multi-layered defensive strategy. First, Naruto channeled draconic energy to create phantom signatures at the southern and western perimeters, drawing attention away from their actual escape route. Meanwhile, Ghislaine set controlled spring traps along our planned path. Not to injure but to create chaos and confusion among their pursuers. When the Crimson Hand forces began their coordinated advance, Naruto implemented the next phase of their plan. Wing on both shinobi deception techniques and draconic elemental manipulation, he created a localized mist bank that obscured the entire camp. Translocation matrix at 60% completion, Lyra reported. Her voice strained with concentration as azure energy swirled around her staff. 30 seconds until direct engagement, Ghislaine warned, her enhanced senses tracking their opponents, approach through the mist. Naruto nodded, moving to the northeastern perimeter. Begin withdrawal sequence on my signal. He channeled energy into his palm, creating a concentrated sphere of golden power. Unlike his previous techniques, this one he compressed continually, forcing massive energy into increasingly smaller volume. Ryujin no Hoshi, he murmured, naming the technique as the sphere condensed to the size of a marble. Glowing with the intensity of a small sun. When the first Crimson Hand operatives breached the mist barrier, red-robed figures flanked by armored warriors bearing enchanted weapons, Naruto launched his creation skyward. At its apex, the compressed sphere detonated with blinding intensity, creating a massive flash without destructive force. Now, he called, the Florida Shish, serving as both distraction and signal. Ghislaine moved with explosive speed, clearing their escape path with precise application of force. 2 Crimson Hand warriors found themselves unceremoniously disarmed and thrown aside. Their enchanted weapons disabled by targeted strikes rather than destroyed, a conscious choice to minimize magical backlash. Matrix at 85%, Lyra updated. As they regrouped at the designated extraction point, her voice taut with exertion. The Crimson Hand forces recovered quickly from the initial confusion, their training evident in their disciplined response. Red-robed mages began counter-ritual chants, attempting to disrupt Lyra's translocation spell. They're establishing a containment ward, Naruto observed, feeling the hostile magic attempting to crystallize around them. We need to disrupt their channeling. Without hesitation, Ghislaine launched herself toward the nearest mage, her sword describing a perfect arc that severed his staff without harming the wielder. The disruption rippled through the partially formed containment ward, creating instability in the entire structure. Naruto capitalized on this opening, channeling draconic energy through the ground itself. Golden light spread beneath their feet, countering the Crimson Hand's containment magic with more ancient power. 95%, Lyra gasped, sweat beading. on her forehead as she maintained concentration despite the chaos. Destination coordinates locked. Beast Tribe territories as planned. The Crimson Hand commander, a tall figure whose face remained concealed behind an ornate mask, stepped forward, hands weaving complex patterns. Dragon blessed, he called out, voice resonating with unnatural harmonics. The Devourer remembers Ryujin's essence. What was scattered shall be consumed. The declaration sent ice through Naruto's veins, confirming their worst suspicions. The Crimson Hand didn't merely seek artifacts, they served the Devourer directly. Translocation complete, Lyra announced. Azure light enveloped them as the world dissolved around them. The last image Naruto registered was the commander's mask cracking to reveal inhuman eyes burning with hungering emptiness. Reality reassembled itself around them piece by piece, first ground beneath their feet, then surrounding air, finally visual and auditory input. They stood atop a grassy plateau overlooking vast savannas that stretched to distant mountains. The air carried unfamiliar scents, sun-baked earth, flowering grasses, and the musk of large herd animals. Beast Tribe territories, Ghislaine confirmed, her posture relaxing marginally as she recognized her homeland. Southern reaches of the windswept plains. Lyra swayed unsteadily, the massive expenditure of magical energy taking its toll. Without comment, Naruto moved to support her while Ghislaine scanned their surroundings for potential threats. Impressive translocation, Naruto acknowledged as Lyra regained her composure. Considerable distance covered with precision. Standard conservatory emergency protocol, she replied, though pride colored her professional tone. Though typically executed with preparation time measured in hours rather than minutes. Ghislaine rejoined them after completing her security assessment. We're approximately 2 days' travel from the nearest settlement of my people. The area appears secure for now, but we should establish defensive position before nightfall. As they set about creating a temporary camp, Naruto reflected on the Crimson Hand commander's parting words. The explicit mention of the Devourer removed any doubt about their adversary's nature. They serve as vessels for fragments of the Devourer's consciousness, Ryujin's voice confirmed within him. Just as you host my essence, their leaders host splinters of my ancient enemy. Asterisk. The commander recognized your energy signature specifically, Naruto noted internally. Which means our presence is now confirmed to them beyond rumor. Inevitable, given our nature. The question becomes not whether we will face the Devourer's servants, but how prepared we will be when that confrontation reaches its climax. Asterisk. Outwardly, Naruto maintained calm efficiency as they established their position, but his mind raced with strategic implications. The alliance forming between himself, Ghislaine, and Ra had proven effective in their first true test, but greater challenges clearly awaited. As evening approached, Ghislaine guided them through preparations specific to Beast Tribe territories, identifying safe water sources, establishing perimeters that respected territorial markings of local predators, and arranging camp elements to maximize natural advantages. Beast tribes live in harmony with these lands rather than imposing upon them, she explained as she demonstrated how to construct a shelter using available materials. The strongest structures work with natural patterns rather than against them. Lyra observed these lessons with scholarly interest, occasionally asking precise questions that revealed genuine desire to understand rather than merely catalog exotic customs. For her part, Ghislaine responded with increasing openness, her initial wariness toward the elf gradually softening. Naruto recognized the growing bonds between his companions with approval. Different as they were in background and perspective, both women possessed exceptional qualities that complemented each other's strengths. The next phase of our journey presents unique challenges, he noted as they shared a simple meal of travel rations supplemented by Ghislaine's knowledge of edible local plants. Beast tribe territories operate under different cultural protocols than either human kingdoms or elven realms. Ghislaine nodded, her expression growing more serious. My people value strength and honor, but define both differently than outsiders expect. Approaching the nexus of binding requires navigating tribal politics. Your status should facilitate passage, Lyra observed. A complex emotion flickered across Ghislaine's features. My status is complicated. I left to seek training outside tribal traditions, a choice not universally approved. You anticipate resistance, Naruto surmised. From certain factions. Her tail swished with subtle agitation. The Dedoldia are proud. Own view outside influence as contamination rather than expansion. This revelation added new dimension to their tactical considerations. Not only would they face potential opposition from the Crimson Hand, but internal tribal politics might create additional obstacles. Tell us what we need to understand about your people's customs, Naruto requested. The more we comprehend, the more effectively we can adapt our approach. Thus began an illuminating discussion of beast tribe culture. Ghislaine explained the complex interplay between family lineages, strength demonstrations, and honor codes that governed social interactions. Unlike the rigid hierarchies of human kingdoms or the age-based authority of elven society, beast tribes operated on dynamic systems where status could shift based on proven capability. Respect is earned through demonstrated value to the tribe, she emphasized. Words matter less than actions. Outsiders gain acceptance by showing how their presence benefits collective strength. Lyra absorbed this information with scholarly precision. How would my magical abilities be perceived? Some cultures view arcane practices with suspicion. Pragmatically, Ghislaine replied, magic that protects the tribe or enhances hunting would be respected. Showy displays without practical application would be dismissed as wasteful. And my situation? Naruto inquired. How would draconic essence be interpreted? Ghislaine considered this carefully. Ancient stories speak of dragon-blessed individuals who brought both opportunity and challenge. You would be viewed with cautious respect initially, with final judgment reserved until your impact on tribal welfare becomes clear. As night deepened around them, they continued refining their approach, integrating cultural understanding with tactical necessity. The nexus of binding lay in territories considered sacred by multiple beast tribes. Accessing it would require navigating complex inter-tribal relations, as well as the practical challenges of the site itself. Rest cycles, Naruto suggested as exhaustion became evident in his companion's postures. I'll take first watch. Ghislaine nodded appreciatively while Lyra began preparing a modest magical ward perimeter, significantly scaled back from her usual protections to conserve energy, but still providing basic alertness to potential threats. As his companions settled into rest, Naruto positioned himself at the camp's edge, extending his awareness into the surrounding savanna. The magical currents here differed markedly from the forest they had left, more primal, less structured, flowing in patterns that emphasized vitality and adaptation rather than permanence. Beast tribe territories retain closer connection to the world's original magical patterns, Ryujin noted. Their people evolved in harmony with natural energies rather than attempting to control or systematize them. Which explains their instinctive recognition of draconic presence, Naruto observed internally. Their magical sensitivity operates on intuitive rather than analytical levels. Precisely. The nexus of binding was placed in their territories because their natural approach to magic provides additional protection against chaotic energies. They maintain balance without conscious effort. This insight deepened Naruto's appreciation for the wisdom behind the original Nexus system. The dragon gods hadn't merely established magical control points but had positioned them within cultural contexts that naturally reinforced their functions. His contemplatio was interrupted by soft footsteps, Ghislaine approaching from the camp, moving with the silent grace that belied her powerful frame. You should be resting, he noted, though without reproach. Chi comes difficult when returning to complicated places. She settled beside him, amber eyes reflecting starlight as she gazed across the savanna. I left these lands believing absolute strength was the only path to becoming Sword King. I return questioning assumptions that once seemed unshakable. Growth often requires challenging established beliefs, Naruto observed. Even when painful. Our teaching methods differ fundamentally from anything I encountered in the beast tribes, she continued. We emphasize power through intensity, pushing capabilities to their limits through force of will. You emphasize power through harmony, aligning intention with natural flow. Different paths to similar destinations, Naruto replied. The most effective approach combines elements of both traditions. Ghislaine's tail swished thoughtfully. Perhaps that explains why previous training failed to advance me beyond certain plateaus. I sought teachers who merely reinforced existing paradigms rather than challenging them. The path to mastery often requires integrating seemingly contradictory principles. They sat in companionable silence for several minutes, the night sounds of the savanna, creating a living backdrop to their conversation. When Ghislaine spoke again, her voice carried unexpected vulnerability. My departure caused pain to those who invested in my development. Some will see my return as vindication of their criticism, that I would eventually recognize the superiority of traditional approaches. And has your journey proven them right or wrong? Naruto asked gently. Her expression grew contemplative. Neither, or both. I've learned that strength takes more forms than my people typically recognize, but also that our traditional wisdom contains truths I failed to fully appreciate. Then return with that integrated understanding. True growth isn't abandoning the old for the new, but finding the valuable essence in both. Ghislaine considered this, her features softening into rare openness. Your words carry wisdom beyond your apparent age. One benefit of hosting ancient consciousness, Naruto acknowledged with a slight smile. Though reconciling different perspectives remains challenging even with millennia of memories. The elf woman understands more than she reveals, Ghislaine observed, changing subjects with characteristic directness. Beneath her scholarly detachment lies genuine passion for her sister's recovery. You've noticed that as well. Good. Recognizing others' core motivations helps build effective alliances. An alliance requires honesty about intentions. Ghislaine turned to face him directly, amber eyes intense in the starlight. You train me toward becoming Sword King, but that represents only part of your purpose here. The dragon essence within you pursues larger objectives. The observation, delivered without accusation but with unflinching directness, demonstrated her perceptiveness. Naruto acknowledged this with a respectful nod. True, Ryujin's consciousness carries responsibility for this world's magical balance, a duty that transcends individual development. But that doesn't diminish my commitment to your training. I don't question your commitment, she clarified, merely seeking to understand where my path intersects with your larger purpose. A fair question. Naruto considered how best to explain the complex interrelationship. The Nexus system was designed with protectors in mind, individuals who would maintain balance once the dragon gods departed. Sword Kings were among those intended guardians, though that purpose has been largely forgotten. Ghislaine's eyes widened slightly. You suggest my pursuit of the sword has deeper significance than personal achievement. I suggest that your natural talents align with ancient needs, Naruto corrected gently. Whether that represents coincidence or design remains unclear, even to Ryujin's memories. This revelation clearly gave her much to contemplate. After several moments of silent reflection, she nodded once, decisively. Whatever the ultimate truth, our immediate paths converge on protecting the nexus of binding. That practical reality suffices for now. Her pragmatic approach reflected the fundamental strength of her character, the ability to acknowledge complexity without becoming paralyzed by it. Naruto appreciated this quality greatly. Rest, he encouraged. Tomorrow begins your return to your people, and you'll need your strength for both physical and social challenges. She rose fluidly, pausing before departing. Your teaching continues to transcend swordsmanship alone. With that observation, she returned to camp, leaving Naruto to his watch and thoughts. The following morning brought renewed purpose. As they prepared to continue their journey toward the nearest beast tribe settlement, Naruto guided Ghislaine through specialized training exercises adapted to the savanna environment. Use tall grasses to develop awareness of movement through resistance, he instructed as they practiced fluid forms. The sword should displace air as efficiently as your body displaces vegetation. Lyre observed these sessions with scholarly interest, occasionally drawing parallels to elven combat forms that emphasized harmony with natural elements. Her willingness to acknowledge commonalities between seemingly divergent traditions impressed both her companions. By midday, they detected signs of beast tribe activity, subtle territorial markers intentionally visible only to those who knew what to observe. Ghislaine identified these with practiced ease, interpreting information that would have been invisible to outsiders. Hunting party passed yesterday, she noted, examining bent grass blades. 6 warriors, tracking herd migration. From the marking pattern, Silverclaw's tribe rather than my own Dedoldia. Allies, Naruto inquired. Traditional rivals with current peace accords, she replied. Not immediate threats, but they'll report our presence to their elders. Which accelerates our timeline, Lyra observed. Word of strangers travels quickly in close-knit communities. Ghislaine nodded agreement. We should adjust our approach. Rather than seeking my tribe directly, we'll make for the standing stones, neutral ground where different tribes gather for seasonal councils. This time of year, representatives from most major tribes should be present, including Dedoldia leadership, Naruto asked. Almost certainly. Her expression revealed complex emotions. My father serves as war chief. His presence is guaranteed during intertribal gatherings. This personal connection added new dimension to their understanding of Ghislaine's complicated status. As war chief's daughter, her departure to seek training outside tribal traditions would have carried political as well as personal significance. They adjusted their route accordingly, pushing their pace to reach the standing stones by nightfall. As they traveled, Naruto continued Ghislaine's training, now incorporating elements specifically relevant to the impending tribal interactions. Combat is only one application of swordsmanship, he explained as they practiced formal demonstration sequences. Among your people, the blade also serves as symbol and communication tool. The precision with which you execute traditional forms communicates respect for collective wisdom while your innovations demonstrate growth rather than rejection. Ghislaine absorbed these insights with characteristic intensity, her movements gradually evolving to incorporate both traditional power and innovative fluidity. By late afternoon, her demonstration sequence had transformed into something new yet recognizably rooted in beast tribe traditions, a physical manifestation of her personal evolution. As the sun began its descent toward the horizon, they crested a gentle rise and beheld their destination. The standing stones rose majestically from the savanna floor, massive monoliths arranged in concentric circles around a central plaza. Unlike the nexus of knowledge they had visited previously, these stones showed clear signs of ongoing human interaction. Carved symbols adorned their surfaces, colorful fabrics draped some as tribal markers, and the ground between them had been worn smooth by generations of gatherings. Most significantly, the site buzzed with activity. Dozens of beast tribe representatives moved purposefully between temporary structures erected around the stone circle's perimeter. Banners identa. FYING. At least 7 different tribes fluttered in the evening breeze. The autumn gathering, Ghislaine identified, surprise evident in her voice. Earlier than traditional, something significant Saint have prompted the elders to adjust the calendar. Fortuitous timing for our purposes, Lyra observed. Decision makers from multiple tribes in one location. Our complicated timing, Naruto countered, noting tension in Ghislaine's posture. Large gatherings involve complex politics. We'll need to navigate carefully. Ghislaine squared her shoulders, determination replacing momentary hesitation. We approach openly but formally. I'll lead, following traditional protocols for a returning warrior. Both of you walk 2 paces behind, maintaining dignified posture but surrendering no status. Show respect without subservience. With these instructions, they proceeded toward the gathering. Their approach did not go unnoticed. Sentries positioned at the perimeter straightened alertly, and road of their arrival spread quickly through the assembled representatives. By the time they reached the outer ring of stones, a reception committee had formed, 4 warrior caste beast tribe members representing different lineages, each bearing ceremonial weapons indicating their authority to grant or deny access. Ghislaine of Dedoldia returns to the gathering circle, announced the central figure. A powerfully built leopard tribe female whose facial markings indicated veteran status. With outsiders at her back and foreign weapons at her side, the formal greeting contained neither welcome or rejection, merely acknowledgement requiring appropriate response. Ghislaine stepped forward precisely 1 pace, assuming a traditional stance that displayed both confidence and respect. Meisha of the Night Hunters speaks truth, she replied, using the formal cadence of tribal diplomatic exchange. Ghislaine returns bearing knowledge sought and alliances formed. I request audience with the Red Elders under traditions of returning hunters. The 4 sentries exchanged meaningful glances, communicating through subtle ear movements and tail positions that outsiders would have missed entirely. Finally, Meisha nodded once. The gathered elders convene at center stone with sunset. Until their judgment, you and she paused, visibly selecting appropriate terminology, hunting partners may refresh yourselves at the visitor's circle. With this conditional acceptance established, they were escorted to a designated area where travelers could rest and prepare before formal interactions. The space provided basic amenities, clean water, simple food, and seating areas, while maintaining clear separation from the main gathering. Could have been worse, Ghislaine muttered once. Their escorts withdrew to a respectful distance. No immediate challenge, at least. They seemed unsurprised by your return, Naruto observed. News travels mysteriously fast in the grasslands, she acknowledged. Someone likely reported my approach days ago, giving the elders time to determine initial response. Lyra had been studying their surroundings with scholarly attention. The standing stones possess remarkable thaumaturgical properties. Ambient magic flows through established channels, artificially directed rather than naturally occurring. The stones predate beast tribe settlements, Ghislaine explained. Our ancestors found them and recognized their significance without understanding their origin. Another dragon-influenced site, Ryujin's voice noted internally to Naruto. Not a full nexus point, but a subsidiary node in the larger network. The beast tribes inadvertently maintain its functions through their gatherings. Asterisk. This information added fascinating context to their situation. The beast tribes had established their most important cultural site atop a location already imbued with significant magical properties, a convergence that likely explained why the nexus of binding had been positioned within their territories. As sunset approached, activity throughout the gathering intensified. Tribal representatives donned formal attire, weapons were ritually displayed rather than practical carried. And ceremonial fires were lit at specific points around the stone circles. Prepare yourselves, Ghislaine advised as attendants approached to escort them to the central meeting. Speak only when directly addressed. Answer honestly but concisely. Display neither arrogance nor submission. The central gathering space proved impressive, a perfect circle formed by 12 massive monoliths, each carved with symbols representing different beast tribe lineages. At the precise center stood a 13th stone of different material, not the rough granite of the outer markers but something smoother. Almost crystalline in appearance, with a faint iridescence reminiscent of dragon metal. The heart stone, Ryujin identified. A fragment from the actual nexus of binding. Brought here by early beast tribes as focus for their gatherings. Asterisk. Assembled around this central stone were the tribal representatives, 24 individuals of varying ages, genders, and beast aspects. Each positioned according to complex protocols of precedence and alliance. They formed 3 concentric circles. Eldest and most respected in the innermost ring, prime of life leaders in the middle, and promising younger representatives in the outer position. Naruto immediately identified the likely war chief of the Dedoldia, a massive figure whose leopard characteristics matched Ghislaine's but with gray-streaked fur and ceremonial scarring that spoke of countless battles. His positioning in the middle ring indicated significant but not supreme authority, balanced by representatives from other major tribes. Their entrance was acknowledged with formal silence, all eyes evaluating them with varying degrees of curiosity, suspicion, or reserved judgment. Ghislaine led them to tea. He designated position for petitioners, close enough for comfortable conversation but outside the formal circles of authority. The eldest representative, a white-furred female whose beast aspect Sugga's Ted Wolf lineage, initiated proceedings with ritual phrases in the ancient beast tribe language. Though Naruto couldn't understand the specific words, Ryujin's consciousness provided general meaning. An invocation of ancestors and request for guidance in judgment. When she finished, she switched to common tongue, a courtesy acknowledging the presence of non-tribe members. Ghislaine of Dedoldia stands before the gathered elders, returning from self-declared quest for knowledge beyond our territories. Her voice carried surprising strength despite her apparent age. Tradition grants returning hunters opportunity to share discoveries that might benefit the combined tribes. Speak your findings, daughter of Thorgrim. The formal invitation represented significant courtesy, allowing Ghislaine to present her case before facing questions or challenges. She acknowledged this with a respectful inclination of her head before stepping forward. What followed demonstrated Ghislaine's previously unrevealed diplomatic skills. Rather than immediately introducing her companions or mentioning their specific mission, she began by addressing the gathering's unusual timing. The autumn gathering comes early this year, she observed. The herds have not yet begun their southern migration, yet the tribes convene with urgency. What concerns prompt such adjustment to traditional timing? The straight GIC question shifted dynamics immediately. Rather than placing Ghislaine in position of supplicant, it established her as informed participant in matters of tribal importance. Several elders exchanged meaningful glances before the wolf elder responded. Perspective sharpens with distance, it seems. Yes, urgent matters precipitated early gathering. She gestured to a tiger aspect male in the middle ring. Rockier of Flame Claw may share what his hunters discovered. The indicated warrior rose, his movements carrying ceremonial precision. 3 cycles of the moon passed, my hunters tracked unusual activity in the sacred valley. Creatures not of natural origin emerged from the ancient cave, beings of twisted form and malevolent purpose. They established perimeter and began excavation operations. Naruto and Lyra exchanged significant glances. The description matched exactly what they had observed at the dragon metal excavation site. Initial observation suggested demon kin, Rockier continued, but directed by entities wearing mortal form. Red robes distinguished the leaders, who focused attention on specific rock formations within the valley. The Crimson Hand, Lyra whispered, 2Q. UIETLY for any but Ghislaine and Naruto to hear. Rockier's report continued, describing unsuccessful attempts to drive the intruders from sacred territory. Their weapons carry twisted magic that corrupts flesh and spirit. 3 of my finest warriors fell to wounds that resist traditional healing. When he finished, Ghislaine stepped forward again. The Flame Claw's discovery aligns with my own findings. These red-robed entities called themselves the Crimson Hand, servants of an ancient evil known as the Devourer, which once threatened the world during the Age of Dragons. This declaration sent ripples of reaction through the assembled elders. The Dedoldia war chief, unmistakably Ghislaine's father, leaned forward with intensified interest. You claim knowledge of these intruders, purpose? He demanded, his deep voice resonating with authority. Not merely claim, possess, Ghislaine replied with confident precision. My journey beyond tribal lands led to encounters with their operations across multiple territories. They excavate specific materials from sites of ancient power, materials connected to the dragon gods who shaped the world before our ancestors walked upright. She gestured to her companions. My search for knowledge brought unexpected allies with expertise directly relevant to this threat. Lyra Frostweave of the Elven Conservatory, whose scholarly understanding of ancient sites provides critical context. And Naruto Uzumaki, whose unique connection to Draconic legacy offers insights no traditional source could provide. The introduction prompted intense scrutiny from the assembled elders. The wolf elder's pupilless eyes narrowed with particular focus on Naruto. Connection to Draconic legacy, she repeated slowly. Strong words requiring substantiation. Before Naruto could respond, the central heart stone began to glow, a soft golden illumination emanating from within its crystalline structure. The assembled elders drew back in surprise, many making traditional warding gestures. The heart stone awakens, whispered the wolf elder, awe overtaking diplomatic reserve. Not since the Great Migration has it shown such response. The fragment recognizes our presence. Ryujin's voice explained internally, just as the Nexus stones responded to our touch. Understanding the opportunity this presented, Naruto stepped forward, approaching the glowing stone with measured respect. The assembled elders watched with mixture of alarm and fascination as he extended his hand toward the ancient artifact. When his fingers made contact with the crystalline surface, the response was immediate and dramatic. Golden light surged through the stone, flowing outward along channels previously invisible beneath the ground. Within moments, the entire circle of monoliths glowed with the same resonant energy, illuminating ancient draconic script carved into their inner surfaces, writing that had remained hidden for centuries. The covenant of guardianship, Naruto spoke, Ryujin's knowledge flowing through him. Established between the dragon gods and the first tribes, entrusting the protection of sacred sites to those who lived in harmony with natural magic. The wolf elder rose from her seat, approaching with remarkable speed despite her apparent age. She circled Naruto slowly, nostrils flaring as she scented his aura. Dragon blessed, she declared finally. The old stories speak truth after all. She turned to address the gathered representatives. Our ancestors maintained prophecies of the dragon-touched one who would return when ancient threats re-emerged. This gathering was called not merely for the Sacred Valley incursion, but because seers across all tribes reported the same vision, scales of gold among shadows of crimson. This revel, Aishin transformed the gathering's atmosphere entirely. What had begun as diplomatic evaluation of returning tribal member with foreign companions suddenly became confirmation of prophetic expectations. Ghislaine appeared momentarily taken aback by this development, clearly unaware that her return had coincided with tribal prophecies. She recovered quickly, however, utilizing the shifted dynamics to advance their purpose. The sacred valley the Flame Claw protects contains what ancient knowledge calls the Nexus of Binding, one of 7 critical sites established by the dragon gods to maintain world stability. The Crimson Hand seeks to disrupt these sites, potentially releasing chaotic forces that would devastate all peoples, not merely beast tribes. Lyra stepped forward, adding her expertise to the explanation. Similar incursions have been documented in territories bordering elven lands. The pattern suggests coordinated effort targeting specific locations across the continent. The Dedoldia war chief rose, addressing his daughter directly for the first time. You left seeking the path of the Sword King through foreign teachings. You return bringing warnings of ancient threats and allies from traditionally adversarial peoples. His expression remained unreadable. Remarkable transformation for one whose departure speech emphasized personal glory above tribal welfare. The pointed observation contained both criticism and opportunity for response. Ghislaine met her father's gaze unflinchingly. I left seeking strength defined only by the blade's edge, she acknowledged. I return understanding that true strength encompasses wisdom to recognize threats beyond immediate horizons and humility to accept allies with complementary capabilities. Her father held her gaze for several long moments before a subtle softening of his features indicated provisional acceptance. He turned to address the Wolf Elder. Matriarch Syria, the sacred valley falls primarily under Flame Claw protection. But its significance extends to all tribes. If these warnings prove accurate, combined response seems warranted. The Wolf Elder, now identified as Matriarch Syria, nodded agreement. The Heartstone's awakening confirms significance beyond tribal politics. She addressed the entire gathering. I propose formation of combined hunt pack to assess threat directly and determine appropriate response. Representatives from each major tribe, led by those with direct knowledge of the enemy. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. Details of composition, timing, and authority occupied the subsequent hour of discussion, with various tribal representatives negotiating their contributions to the proposed expedition. Throughout this process, Naruto observed the complex social dynamics with fascination. Despite their reputation among humans for directness bordering on bluntness, the beast tribes demonstrated sophisticated diplomatic capabilities when addressing matters of mutual concern. Strength remained the fundamental currency of respect, but strength manifested through strategic thinking and resource coordination as much as physical capability. Eventually, consensus emerged. A combined hunt pack would depart at dawn, comprising elite warriors from 5 major tribes plus Ghislaine and her companions as guides. The Dedoldia war chief, Thorgrim, would command overall operations, with tactical authority distributed according to expertise and terrain familiarity. As the formal gathering concluded, tribal representatives dispersed to prepare their design ed participants for the coming expedition. Ghislaine led her companions to a separate area where they could discuss developments privately. That went better than anticipated, she acknowledged once they were alone. The prophecy element was unexpected but fortuitous. Not entirely coincidental, Naruto noted. Ryujin's memories suggest the beast tribes were specifically selected as guardians for the Nexus of Binding. Their spiritual sensitivity likely generates prophetic insights when the Nexus faces threat. Lyra had been examining a rough map provided by the Flame Claw representatives. The Sacred Valley's description matches coordinates from our tablet translation. Distance suggests day-and-a-half journey at standard march pace. Less with elite tribal hunters, Ghislaine corrected. My people move efficiently through familiar territory. Their planning was interrupted by the approach of Thorgrim, who had clearly detached himself from other leaders to seek private conversation with his daughter. Recognizing the need for family discussion, Naruto and Lyra tactfully withdrew to a respectful distance. From their position, they could observe but not overhear the interaction between father and daughter. Initial stiffness gradually gave way to more natural communication, culminating in what appeared to be genuine, if reserved, reconciliation. Family relationships transcend cultural boundaries. Lyra observed quietly. The fundamental dynamics remain recognizable despite differing expressions. True, Naruto agreed, though reconciliation often proves more challenging than initial conflict. When Ghislaine rejoined them, her expression reflected complex emotions. My father acknowledges the significance of our warnings. Personal matters remain under negotiation. Understandable, Naruto replied. Trust rebuilds gradually, especially when tied to tribal responsibilities. They spent the remaining evening hours preparing for the expedition, reviewing PS and information while integrating insights from tribal representatives familiar with the Sacred Valley's current conditions. Throughout this process, Naruto continued Ghislaine's training during brief interludes, focusing on techniques specifically relevant to the anticipated environment. The valley's confines will limit conventional movement patterns, he noted as they practiced close-quarters forms. Adapt your style to emphasize vertical space utilization when horizontal options narrow. As night settled over the standing stones, magical energies activated by Naruto's interaction with the Heart Stone continued flowing through the ancient monoliths, creating a protective dome of golden light above the gathering. Several tribal elders approached to observe this phenomenon with reverent fascination. The ancestors speak through stone and light, Matriarch Siraya commented, joining them at the perimeter. Confirming what Heart Wisdom already knew, that darkness rises requiring combined strength to oppose. Her acceptance provided final validation of their mission within tribal hierarchy. With leadership alignment established, practical preparations continued efficiently. Warriors selected for the combined hunt pack demonstrated impressive professionalism, setting aside traditional tribal rivalries to focus on operational requirements. Dawn arrived with golden light spilling across the savannah, illuminating assembled warriors prepared for immediate departure. 40 elite fighters drawn from 5 major tribes, each equipped according to their specialized combat styles, formed the core expedition force. Supporting them, smaller groups managed logistics, communication, and medical resources. As they prepared to depart, Ghislaine approached Naruto with unexpected formality. Tradition holds that warriors setting forth on significant hunts receive blessing from acknowledged teachers, she explained. Would you honor this custom? The request represented important public acknowledgement of their training relationship. Naruto recognized both its personal and political significance within tribal context. With respect for tradition and confidence in your capabilities, he responded. Placing his hand on her shoulder in the formal gesture she had subtly indicated was appropriate. Golden energy briefly flowed between them, not an intentional technique but spontaneous resonance between his draconic essence and her developing potential. Those observing reacted with varying degrees of awe or solemn acknowledgement, interpreting the phenomenon according to tribal spiritual frameworks. With ceremonial requirements satisfied, the expedition moved out with impressive efficiency. Beast tribe warriors maintained perfect formation despite rapid pace, covering ground with tireless loping strides that their human or elven counterparts would have struggled to match. Naruto noted with approval how Ghislaine's position within the formation reflected both respect for her fighting capabilities and acknowledgement of her role as knowledge-bearer. Rather than placing her at subordinate edge positions, Thorgrim had assigned her to the central vanguard, a placement reserved for those whose input would be required for tactical decisions. As they traveled, Naruto continued her training in subtle ways, brief observations on tactical positioning, suggestions for energy conservation during sustained movement, refinements to her awareness of group dynamics. Each interaction built upon their established mentor-student relationship while respecting the operational structure Thorgrim had established. By midday, the landscape had transformed from open savanna to increasingly rugged terrain, rolling hills giving way to rocky outcroppings and deeper ravines. Vegetation changed correspondingly, with tall grasses yielding to scattered thornbushes and stunted trees adapted to harsher conditions. Approaching transition zone, Ghislaine explained as they paused briefly for water and status assessment. The Sacred Valley lies beyond that ridge system. Flame Claw territory begins officially at the stone markers ahead. Rockier, the Flame Claw representative who had reported the initial incursion, joined their conversation. My scouts maintain observation positions overlooking the valley. Last report indicated continued excavation activities with increased intensity. The intruders appear to be reaching deeper levels beneath the ancient cave. This information prompted immediate strategic discussion among the expedition's leadership. Thorgrim solicited input from various perspectives, including Lyra's magical expertise and Naruto's draconic insights. The nexus of binding contains powerful sealing mechanisms, Naruto explained, drawing on Ryujin's knowledge. Disrupting these without proper understanding risks releasing chaotic energies that have been contained for millennia. Can we simply collapse the excavation? One tribal leader suggested, quote, bury the intruders and their work together. Lyra shook her head emphatically. Destabilizing the physical structure while magical seals are partially compromised would likely accelerate uncontrolled energy release rather than preventing it. Then our objective must be precision rather than overwhelming force, Thorgrim concluded. We need detailed assessment before committing to specific action. With this approach established, they continued toward the ridge system marking the Sacred Valley's perimeter. As they drew closer, Naruto detected subtle changes in the ambient magical energy, patterns similar to those at the nexus of knowledge but with distinctive differences reflecting its specialized function. The binding nexus contains particularly dangerous energies, Ryujin's voice warned internally. Chaotic forces that could not be safely released or transformed were sealed here under multiple protective layers. Any breach risks catastrophic consequences. This understanding added urgency to their mission. When they reached the observation positions established by Flameclaw scouts, the situation below confirmed their concerns. The Sacred Valley stretched before them, a GHLY circular depression approximately 2 miles across, ringed by steep ridges that created natural containment. Unlike the lush grasslands they had traversed, the valley floor appeared oddly barren, with only sparse vegetation growing in patterns that suggested underlying energy currents. At the valley's center stood what the beast tribes called the Ancient Cave, a massive rock formation with a dark opening leading beneath the earth. Around this natural feature, the Crimson Hand had established an extensive excavation operation that bore disturbing similarities to the site Naruto and Ghislaine had observed previously. Red-robed figures directed teams of laboring demons, who removed earth and stone from multiple pit locations surrounding the cave entrance. Scaffolding and support structures extended into the main cavern, suggesting their operations had penetrated deep beneath the surface. Most concerning, faint but visible energy distortions rippled occasionally across the valley flow. Or, evidence that whatever seals protected the nexus were already experiencing interference. Their operation appears more advanced than anticipated, Lyra observed grimly. The magical disruption patterns suggest they've reached the outer containment layer of the nexus itself. Thorgrim studied the situation with veterans' assessment. Direct assault would be detected long before we reached critical positions. Their elevated platforms provide superior firing positions covering all obvious approach vectors. And magical sensors likely supplement physical observation, Lyra added. Conventio. Null infiltration would trigger alarms before reaching effective strike range. The tactical challenge prompted intense discussion among the tribal leaders, with various approaches proposed and dismissed. Throughout this process, Naruto observed Ghislaine carefully. Her expression reflected deep concentration as she integrated her traditional tribal tactical training with the new perspectives their recent experiences had provided. When she finally spoke, her suggestion demonstrated this synthesis beautifully. The valley's natural energy currents provide both challenge and opportunity, she noted, indicating subtle patterns visible in the vegetation growth. These flows disrupt conventional magical detection when approached correctly. Traditional beast tribe hunting techniques for Aproa Ching spiritually sensitive prey could be adapted to penetrate their perimeter. This innovative application of traditional knowledge captured immediate attention. With Thorgrim's approval, Ghislaine elaborated on her approach, outlining how small teams could utilize the natural energy flows to mask their approach if they moved in precise patterns that aligned with the valley's inherent magical currents. The technique requires exceptional bodily awareness and energy control, she acknowledged. Not all warriors could maintain the necessary precision. Demonstrate the required movement pattern, Thorgrim requested. Ghislaine complied, executing a flowing sequence that combined elements of traditional beast tribe stalking techniques with the refined energy control Naruto had been teaching her. The resulting form appeared deceptively simple while actually requiring extraordinary kinesthetic precision. Naruto recognized with pride how perfectly this demonstration showcased her grout. not abandoning tribal wisdom but enhancing it through integration with new knowledge. The assembled leaders clearly recognized its effectiveness, though several acknowledged only their most disciplined warriors could execute it successfully. A viable approach for initial infiltration teams, Thorgrim concluded. We'll need complementary strategies for main force engagement once position is established. The operational plan developed rapidly from this foundation. 3 infiltration teams would utilize Ghislaine's approach to establish forward positions, neutralizing perimeter sensors and creating openings for the main force to advance. Meanwhile, Lyra would prepare counter-magic to stabilize the Nexus once they gained access, while Naruto would focus on identifying and neutralizing the Crimson Hand's leadership. As preparations for the operation intensified, Naruto took a moment to acknowledge Ghislaine's contribution. Your solution perfectly balances traditional wisdom with innovative application, he noted quietly. The essence of true mastery lies in such integration. Her expression reflected genuine satisfaction, not merely from the tactical approval but from the deeper recognition of her growth. The path to becoming Sword King requires more than technical proficiency with the blade, she acknowledged. It demands understanding how disparate knowledge forms unified wisdom. With the infiltration teams selected and briefed, final preparations focused on timing and coordination. They would move under cover of darkness, utilizing the natural energy patterns that intensified during nighttime hours. As twilight descended over the sacred valley, Naruto sought brief meditation to commune with Ryujin's consciousness, seeking any final insights regarding the nexus of binding. The seals were designed with multiple redundancies, the dragon god's voice explained. Even partial disruption should not cause immediate catastrophic failure. However, if the Crimson Hand has identified the nexus's true purpose, they may be deliberately targeting specific seal components. Can the seals be reinforced once we reach the nexus? Temporarily, yes. Permanent rest. Oration would require ritual components we likely cannot access immediately. But stabilization should be possible with proper application of draconic energy. This information provided crucial context for their approach. When Naruto shared these insights with Lyra, she integrated them into her magical preparations, adapting elven stabilization techniques to complement draconic energy patterns. Night fell across the sacred valley, bringing operational silence as the infiltration teams prepared for deployment. Ghislaine would lead the primary team, having developed the approach technique. Before she departed, she sought a final moment with Naruto. Whatever happens below, she said quietly, your guidance has already transformed my understanding of the sword's true purpose. For that alone, I owe debt beyond repayment. The greatest repayment is application of knowledge, Naruto replied. Which you've already demonstrated admirably. Their exchange complete, Ghislaine joined her infiltration team at the designated departure point. With final acknowledgements exchanged, they began their careful descent into the valley, moving with the deliberate precision her technique required. As the infiltration teams disappeared into darkness, Naruto positioned himself for optimal observation of their progress. The operation to secure the nexus of binding had begun, with implications extant far beyond Beast Tribe territories to the fundamental stability of this world's magical balance. Whether they would reach the nexus before the Crimson Hand completed their objective remained uncertain. What was clear, however, was that this confrontation represented merely one engagement in a larger conflict now unfolding across the continent, a conflict centered around the awakening draconic energies and the ancient forces seeking to exploit them. The scales of destiny had begun to shift, and the world would feel their weight in the days to come. Chapter 2 End Chapter 3, Blood and Honor. Darkness enveloped the sacred valley as Ghislaine led her infiltration team along invisible currents of ancient magic. Each step required perfect harmony with the valley's natural energy flow, Chinique blending ancestral beast tribe hunting methods with the refined awareness Naruto had cultivated in her. 4 elite warriors followed her lead, mimicking her movements with the fluid precision that marked true masters of their craft. From his observation position, Naruto tracked their progress through enhanced draconic senses. The infiltration team appeared as golden threads woven through the valley's magical tapestry, nearly imperceptible unless one knew precisely what to seek. Remarkable adaptation, Lyra murmured beside him, her pupilless eyes gleaming faintly as she utilized elven magicite. She's integrated your teachings with traditional beast tribe techniques more thoroughly than I anticipated. Her natural talent accelerates the process, Naruto replied, pride evident beneath his measured tone. But more importantly, she understands the principle behind the form rather than merely mimicking movements. Thorgrim approached silently, his massive frame somehow moving, without disturbing a single pebble, testament to decades mastering the warrior's path. My daughter always possessed exceptional physical gifts, he observed, watching the distant figures. What Sheila, CKED was patience to discover their true application. The acknowledgement revealed more about their complicated relationship than any direct explanation could have provided. Before Naruto could respond, a subtle disturbance rippled through the valley's magical currents. Ghislaine's team had reached the outer perimeter of the Crimson Hand's operation. First contact imminent, Thorgrim noted, his enhanced vision detecting what others could not. Test of theory approaches. The moment stretched with unbearable tension. If Ghislaine's approach failed, alarm spells would trigger immediately, promising the entire operation before it began. Seconds passed like hours until Thorgrim's subtle nod confirmed success. Perimeter penetrated without detection, he stated, satisfaction evident despite his controlled expression. She remembered the ghost hunt technique and adapted it perfectly. The infiltration team proceeded methodically toward their primary objective, the control nexus for Crimson Hand's magical detection system. According to intelligence gathered by Flame Claw scouts, this critical component was housed in a small structure northeast of the main excavation. When they reached this target, Ghislaine signaled the specialist who carried counter-magic implements designed by Lyra. The delicate operation of neutralizing magical alarms without triggering them required extraordinary precision. One mistaken gesture could alert the entire compound. Disruption complete, Lyra confirmed moments later, sensing the subtle shift in magical energies. Primary detection grid disabled, secondary systems remain active but significantly degraded. Thorgrim immediately signaled the main assault force. With practiced efficiency, 40 elite warriors split into designated strict E-teams and began converging on the valley from multiple approach vectors. Unlike the infiltration team's methodical progress, this phase emphasized swift, overwhelming force once protective systems had been compromised. The operation unfolded with textbook precision until an unexpected surge of crimson energy erupted from the central excavation site. The magical discharge pulsed outward in concentric rings, momentarily illuminating the entire valley with blood-red light. Void-taken parasites, Lyra hissed, abandoning scholarly reserve as she analyzed the phenomenon. They've breached the secondary containment seal. The chaotic energies begin to leak, Ryujin's voice warned within Naruto. Not catastrophic yet, but accelerating the timeline dangerously. This development forced immediate tactical adjustment. Thorgrim signaled for compressed timeline execution, sacrificing stealth for speed now that the element of surprise had diminished value. Naruto turned to Lyra. We need to reach the central seal chamber directly. Can you execute targeted translocation with the information we have? The elven mage assessed possibilities with remarkable speed. Risky with interfering energies, but feasible for 2 passengers maximum. Arrival precision will be compromised. Acceptable risk. Prepare the spell. Thorgrim caught Naruto's intention immediately. My warriors will create multiple diversions to mask your approach. Primary objective shifts to seal stabilization rather than facility capture. As Beast Tribe warriors engaged Crimson Hand forces throughout the compound, Lyra prepared her translocation magic. Unlike her previous careful ritual, this version required compressed execution under combat conditions. Frost crystals formed around her fingers as she shaped complex gestures with one hand while maintaining a stabilization matrix with the other. Coordinates locked, she announced, azure energy swirling around them. Translocation in 3, 2. Reality dissolved into azure light, then painfully reconstituted around them. They materialized not in the central chamber as intended, but inside a narrow access tunnel approximately 50 meters from their target. Crimson warning sigils flashed along the walls, indicating the breach had been detected. Deviation within acceptable parameters, Lyra assessed clinically, though sweat beaded her forehead from the exertion. Primary target bearing that direction. They advanced through carved tunnels that blended natural cave formations with precise magical excavation. Periodic tremors suggested the stabilizing energies were affecting the physical structure itself. As they rounded a corner, they encountered their first opposition, three robed figures performing a ritual around a floating crimson crystal. Naruto acted without hesitation. Drawing on draconic energy, he executed Ryujin no K's, a focused wind technique that disrupted the ritual circle without harming the participants directly. The unexpected interruption caused cascading magical feedback that incapacitated the cultists, allowing swift progress without lethal force. Efficient, Lyra noted approvingly as they continued. Lethal engagement would have released death energies into already unstable magical currents. Two more encounters followed similar patterns, Naruto neutralizing opposition with precision techniques Lyra maintained a protective counter-interference field around them. The deeper they progressed, the more pronounced the ambient energy distortions became. Reality itself seemed to waver at the tunnel edges, occasionally revealing glimpses of impossible geometries and alien landscapes. Boundary thinning, Lyra identified grimly. The Nexus seal maintains separation between dimensional planes. As it degrades, overlap occurs. Finally, they reached the central chamber, a massive natural cavern whose walls gleamed with exposed veins of dragon metal. At its center stood an elaborate construction combining elements of altar, containment device, and dimensional gateway. Red-robed figures worked frantically around its perimeter, their chanting reaching fever pitch as energy discharges intensified. Commanding this operation was a figure Naruto recognized immediately, the masked leader they had glimpsed during their previous encounter. Now the mask was removed, revealing features that appeared human but somehow wrong. As though something else wore human skin as ill-fitting disguise. Velshar, Ryujin's consciousness identified. Once human, now vessel for a fragment of the Devourer's awareness. Dangerous beyond conventional measure. The cultist leader sensed their arrival instantly, turning from the ritual with unnatural smoothness. Dragon blessed, he intoned, voice layering multiple tones simultaneously. How considerate to deliver yourself directly to us. Step away from the seal, Naruto commanded, golden energy swirling around his form. You cannot control what you're attempting to release. Velshar's lips curved in a smile that never reached his eyes. Control. How limited your understanding remains, despite housing Ryujin's fragment. We don't seek to control chaos, we seek to become it. With a gesture, he directed two subordinates to continue the ritual while stepping forward himself. The Devourer remembers your essence, Eastern Dragon. Your scattered self delayed inevitable consumption. Nothing more. The cultist's hands described complex patterns as he spoke, weaving a spell designed specifically to target draconic energy. Crimson tendrils materialized around Naruto, attempting to bind and extract Ryujin's essence directly. Lyra responded instantly, counterspelling with precision born from centuries of magical discipline. Azure energy met crimson, creating destructive interference patterns that neutralized the immediate threat. Attend the seal, Naruto directed her. I'll handle Velshar. The confrontation that followed transcended physical combat. Velshar attacked with magic specifically designed to disrupt the connection between Naruto's human consciousness and Ryujin's draconic essence, techniques developed through millennia the Crimson Hand's obsession with dragon power. Naruto countered by drawing on both his shinobi training and Ryujin's ancient knowledge, maintaining perfect integration of dual consciousness under assault. Golden energy met crimson in escalating exchanges that warped surrounding reality with each collision. Fascinating resistance, Velshar observed during a momentary lull. Most vessels fracture immediately under separation pressure. Your bond exhibits unexpected resilience. Because it's not possession or domination, Naruto replied, golden energy coalescing around his form. But willing partnership based on shared purpose. Quote, this concept appeared to genuinely confuse the cultist. Shared purpose. Dragons use lesser beings as tools, nothing more. Your delusion of equality proves how thoroughly your consciousness has been subverted. The exchange provided crucial insight into the Crimson Hand's fundamental misunderstanding of draconic nature. They perceived the relationship between dragons and younger races through the distorted lens of the Devourer's parasitic existence. Meanwhile, Lyra had reached the central seal apparatus and begun complex countermeasures to stabilize the degrading boundaries. Her elven magic, precise and crystalline, created temporary reinforcement of the ancient draconic patterns while she assessed more permanent solutions. The structural integrity is compromised beyond simple repair, she called out, frost forming around her as she channeled increasingly powerful magic. We need to reconfigure rather than merely reinforce. Velshar Law. A sound containing too many voices layered together. Your efforts are meaningless. The process has advanced beyond reversibility. The hunger awakens. At his pronouncement, the central apparatus emitted a blinding crimson flash. Reality itself seemed to tear along invisible seams, revealing glimpses of a void filled with writhing tendrils of anti-light. From this dimensional wound, something began to emerge, formless yet malevolent. Ancient beyond comprehension. A fragment of the Devourer itself, Ryujin's voice confirmed. Not its complete essence, but enough to devastate this region if fully manifested. The situation demanded immediate, decisive action. Naruto reached deep within his merged consciousness, accessing capabilities neither his human self nor Ryujin's fragmented essence could have achieved independently. Ryujin no Seigen, he called forth, naming a technique that came into existence in that very moment. Golden light erupted from his entire body, coalescing into a draconic script that flowed like living calligraphy through the air. These symbols, representations of concepts too complex for language alone, surrounded the dimensional tear, imposing structure upon chaos through sheer metaphysical authority. Lyra, recognizing the opportunity, integrated her elven binding magic with Naruto's draconic script. The combined technique created a temporary but effective barrier that contained the manifesting entity while preventing further deterioration of the original seal. Velshar howled in rage, a sound increasingly inhuman as the Devourer's influence manifested more directly through his form. You merely delay inevitability. What was sundered seeks reunion, the hunger shall be sated. The cultist launched himself at Naruto with desperate fury, abandoning magical techniques for direct physical assault. His body had begun transforming, limbs elongating unnaturally and skin hardening into chitinous plates. The attack carried power beyond mortal capability. Evidence that the human vessel was being consumed by the entity it had served. Naruto met this assault with calm precision, drawing on both shinobi martial disciplines and draconic combat knowledge. Each strike he landed carried golden energy that disrupted the transformative process, forcing the entity to expend power maintaining its host rather than completing manifestation. Their battle raged across the chamber while Lyra worked frantically to strengthen the impromptu containment. Outside, sounds of intense fighting indicated the Beast Tribe warriors had engaged the Crimson Hand forces throughout the complex. A tremendous explosion shook the entire cavern system. Ghislaine and her team had reached the secondary power source and disabled it according to plan. The magical disruption created a momentary weakening in Velshar's connection to his otherworldly patron. Naruto seized this opportunity, channeling concentrated draconic energy into a decisive strike. Ryujin no Hoko, gold, fire engulfed his hand as he drove it directly into the cultist's chest, not to destroy the human vessel, but to sever the parasitic connection to the Devourer's fragment. Velshar screamed with multiple voices as golden fire burned away corrupted energy channels within his form. The human body collapsed, suddenly empty of the entity that had animated it, while dissipating crimson energy indicate. The Devourer's fragment retreating back through the dimensional tier. Containment stabilizing, Lyra reported, maintaining her complex magical matrix. But temporary only. This entire chamber requires proper resealing ritual. Naruto joined her at the central apparatus, adding his draconic energy to reinforce her work. Together they established a functioning interim seal, not as comprehensive as the original, but sufficient to prevent immediate catastrophe. We need to extract, he determined after assessing their work. The physical structure has been compromised beyond safe occupation. As if confirming his assessment, a major tremor shook the chamber, causing stone to crack and dragon metal veins to groan under stress. Lyra completed her final binding sequence and nodded agreement. Emergency translocation possible but risky in these conditions, she warned, already beginning the necessary preparation. Acceptable risk, Naruto confirmed. Maximum distance achievable with current resources. Azure energy enveloped them as Lyra executed the translocation with remarkable precision despite deteriorating conditions. Reality dissolved once more, reconstituting at the valley. edge where Beast Tribe warriors had established their rally point. They emerged to controlled chaos as Thorgrim coordinated the extraction of his forces. The operation had achieved its primary objective, preventing the Devourer's manifestation, but at significant cost. Several warriors bore injuries from Crimson Hand weapons, while others showed signs of exposure to chaotic energies. Report, Thorgrim demanded upon seeing them. Temporary containment established, Naruto explained concisely. Velshar neutralized, dimensional breach controlled but not permanently sealed. The entire complex is structurally compromised. The war chief processed this information with veterans' efficiency. Withdrawal to safe distance priority. Wounded already moving to secondary position. Ghislaine, Naruto asked, scanning the assembled warriors. Leading rear guard action, Thorgrim replied, a hint of paternal pride beneath his professional demeanor. Her team disrupted their magical reinforcement, preventing additional forces from joining the engagement. True to this assessment, Ghislaine and her team appeared minutes later, covering the withdrawal of the final Beast Tribe warriors. Her efficient movements and commanding presence reflected not merely her growing combat prowess but genuine leadership capability. Once safely beyond the valley's influence, the combined force established temporary camp to assess injuries and determine next steps. The wounded received immediate attention from tribal healers, whose techniques blended traditional medicine with instinctive manipulation of natural energies. Lyra contributed her magical expertise to cases involving exposure to chaotic forces, while Naruto assisted with wounds that resisted conventional treatment due to residual Crimson Hand magic. Throughout this process, Ghislaine coordinated with Thorgrim to maintain security and assess their strategic position. The Crimson Hand suffered significant losses, she reported during a leadership council. But our scouts confirm they're already receiving reinforcements through secondary routes. They'll regain operational capability within days, though access to the central chamber remains compromised. Which provides time but not resolution, Thorgrim concluded. The Nexus requires proper resealing beyond our current capabilities. Lyra nodded agreement. The ritual necessary for permanent restoration demands components we don't presently possess, specifically stabilized dragon essence in crystalline form. Dragon tears, Ryujin's voice provided internally. Crystal, lizzed emotional energy from a willing dragon. Extraordinarily rare since our kind's departure from the mortal plane. Asterisk. There may be a source, Naruto shared after this internal consultation. But accessing it requires journey to a location called the Crystal Spires, according to Ryujin's memory. The council exchanged meaningful glances before Thorgrim spoke. That name appears in our oldest migration tales. A sacred site beyond the eastern mountains, where beast tribes first received blessing from scaled gods. 3 weeks' journey from present position, one elder calculated. Through territories grown increasingly dangerous in recent years. Ghislaine studied the rough map spread before them. The route passes through my mother's ancestral village, Silvermane Settlement. They maintain the oldest records of beast tribe history, including possibly more detailed information about these crystal spires. Thorgrim's expression revealed complex emotions at mention of this location. Quote, Silvermane Settlement has grown isolated in recent decades. Their welcome, even to Dedoldia blood, remains uncertain. This reference to internal tribal politics added new dimension to their planning. Eventually, a decision emerged. While the main force would return to their territories to prepare broader defenses against potential Crimson Hand expansion, a smaller group would journey to Silvermane Settlement seeking both historical information and potential alliance. Ghislaine would lead this expedition, accompanied by Naruto, Lyra, and 4 selected warriors representing different tribal specialties. Thorgrim approved this arrangement with formal dignity that barely concealed obvious concern for his daughter. The path to Silvermane crosses territories once safe but recently troubled, he advised during final preparations. Reports describe travelers vanishing and villages finding their young mysteriously absent after nights of strange lights. Crimson Hand expansion testing tribal responses, Ghislaine suggested. Perhaps, Thorgrim acknowledged, but patterns differ from their known operations. Exercise heightened vigilance. The following dawn saw their parties separating, with Thorgrim leading the main force westward while Ghislaine's expedition turned east toward distant mountains. The farewell between father and daughter revealed their partially healed relationship. formal in structure but carrying undercurrents of genuine emotion. "Honor walks with you," Thorgrim stated, clasping her forearm in traditional warrior fashion. "And wisdom with you," she returned, completing the ritual phrase with perfect intonation. As they departed, Naruto noted subtle changes in Ghislaine's demeanor, increased confidence in her leadership role, balanced by thoughtful consideration before decisions. Her evolution continued beyond mere combat prowess into broader development of character and capability. Their journey through Beast Tribe territories provided ideal opportunities to continue her training while traveling. During breaks in their march, Naruto guided her through increasingly advanced forms that integrated draconic energy principles with swordsmanship. Quote, "The blade's purpose extends beyond cutting," he explained during one such session. At its highest expression, it becomes boundary between states of existence, defining what remains and what transforms. Ghislaine absorbed these philosophical concepts with growing appreciation for their practical applications. When she executed techniques, her movements increasingly reflected deeper understanding rather than mere physical proficiency. "The distinction feels tangible now," she observed after particularly successful sequence. "Between fighting with the sword and truly embodying its principle." Lyra, who often observed these training sessions with scholarly interest, contributed occasional insights from elven martial traditions. "Our bladesongs operate on similar conceptual foundation, the W. Epen is extension of fundamental reality principles rather than mere physical tool." This cross-cultural exchange benefited all participants. Ghislaine gained perspective beyond Beast Tribe traditions. Lyra developed deeper appreciation for physical disciplines her scholarly background had sometimes undervalued, and Naruto found new applications for techniques by observing their integration into different frameworks. 5 days into their journey, the landscape gradually transformed from open savanna to increasingly forested terrain. Ancient trees with massive gnarled trunks created natural corridors through which game trails wound. The expedition adapted their formation to this environment, with scouts ranging ahead to identify optimal paths. During evening camp establishment, Naruto noticed Ghislaine growing increasingly contemplative as they approached her maternal homeland. When they had a moment of relative privacy while checking the perimeter, he addressed this directly. "The Sei lands hold significance beyond our mission," he observed, neither question nor demand but opening for her to share if desired. Ghislaine remained silent for several moments before responding. "My mother died defending Silvermane against shadow-touched creatures when I was barely adolescent. I haven't returned since her funeral rites." The simple statement carried complex emotional weight that explained much about her initial drive toward pure combat prowess. She was a warrior of significance, Naruto surmised. "Sword dancer Kila," Ghislaine confirmed, pride evident beneath grief. "Maste are of flowing forms that emphasized beauty in battle. Many believed she would achieve Sword King rank had she lived. Her legacy continues through you." Perhaps. Uncertainty shadowed her features. "I abandoned her teaching style after her death, believing power more reliable than grace. Only recently have I recognized the wisdom in her approach." This revelation provided crucial context for Ghislaine's development path. Her recent integration of fluid movement with power techniques represented not merely tactical evolution but reconciliation with her mother's legacy. Their conversation as interrupted by one of the scouts returning with urgent news. Unusual tracks discovered ahead, indicating multiple humanoid entities moving with purpose toward Silvermane settlement. The expedition immediately increased their pace, concern growing as they encountered subtle signs of disturbance throughout the forest. Native animals had abandoned traditional territories, while certain plants exhibited unnatural wilting patterns suggesting exposure to corrupted energy. By the following afternoon, they detected smoke rising above the treeline. Not the controlled cooking fires of a settlement, but the unchecked blazes of destruction. Ghislaine immediately ordered tactical approach formation, with scouts confirming their worst fears minutes later. Silvermane settlement was under attack. From their position on a forested ridge, they observed the unfolding tragedy. Unlike the organized military operation of the Crimson Hand, this assault displayed feral savagery, creatures of twisted form, rampaging through the village's outer buildings while defenders attempted to maintain a perimeter around the central longhouses. Not Crimson Hand, Lyra identified, studying the attackers through magical sight. Different magical signature entirely. wild chaos rather than directed corruption. Ghislaine had already drawn her sword, muscles tensed for immediate intervention. Assessment irrelevant. Defense imperative. Naruto placed a tempering hand on her shoulder. Tactical approach matters. Numbers favor coordinated action over direct assault. His calm reasoning penetrated her immediate emotional response. With visible effort, she mastered her instinctive reaction and nodded. Recommend divided approach. Main force draws attention frontally while smaller team circles to reinforce defender core. This balanced strategy was quickly implemented. Ghislaine would lead the frontal element, capitalizing on her recognizable beast tribe appearance to rally defenders, while Naruto and Lyra circled with two warriors to strike from unexpected angle. Their intervention unfolded with precision born from recent combat experience together. Ghislaine's team announced their arrival with a thunderous charge that immediately disrupted the attacker's loose formation. Her sword described perfect arcs that demonstrated the integration of power and grace she had recently mastered, each strike decisive yet economical, creating maximum impact with minimal exertion. Meanwhile, Naruto and Lyra executed their flanking maneuver, approaching the settlement's rear where attackers had nearly breached the final defensive line. Lyra deployed precisely targeted ice magic that created strategic choke points, while Naruto engaged the lead creatures directly. Close observation revealed disturbing details about their opponents. What initially appeared as malformed humanoids proved more complex. Villagers transformed through exposure to chaotic energy, their bodies twisted into weaponized parodies of their original forms. Conversion rather than simple killing, Lyra identified grimly. Someone experiments with chaos exposure effects on beast tribe physiology. This realization demanded tactical adjustment. Rather than lethal engagement, Naruto focused on neutralization techniques that incapacitated without destroying. Drawing on draconic energy, he executed precise strikes that disrupted the chaotic influence without harming the underlying victims. Ryujin no Shogeki, he intoned, channeling golden energy through his palms to deliver purifying shockwaves that temporarily severed the corrupting influence without destroying the host. The defenders, recognizing allies despite their unexpected appearance, quickly adapted their tactics to complement the intervention. Within an hour of coordinated effort, the attack had been repulsed, with survivors secured and wounded receiving treatment. Ghislaine found herself welcomed with reverent gratitude by Silvermane's elders, who recognized her lineage immediately despite years of absence. Their reception combined formal tribal protocols with genuine emotional warmth that clearly affected her deeply. Daughter of Kila returns when most needed, proclaimed the chief elder, a gray-furred female whose elaborate facial scarring indicated both great age and battle experience. The ancestors guided your steps homeward. The following hours brought sobering revelations. Silvermane's settlement had endured 3 previous attacks of increasing intensity over recent months. Each assault followed the same pattern, transformed victims rather than conventional enemies, targeting primarily younger tribe members for capture rather than immediate killing. They take our children, one elder explained, grief evident beneath carefully maintained dignity. Those not immediately transformed are dragged away. Tracking parties follow but lose trail at the Black River Canyon. Lyra conducted examinations of injured defenders who had partial exposure to the transformative influence. Her findings proved disturbing. The corruption signature differs fundamentally from Crimson Hand magic, she reported during council discussion. Less refined but potentially more dangerous, raw chaotic essence without controlling parameters. Suggesting what exactly? Ghislaine asked, her formal role as expedition leader balanced against IOU's personal investment in her mother's people. Someone has accessed chaotic energy similar to what was contained at the nexus of binding, but lacks the Crimson Hand's sophisticated control mechanisms, Lyra theorized. Essentially conducting uncontrolled experiments with dangerous forces. This assessment aligned with recovered fragments of information from captured attackers who had been successfully purged of corruption. Before transformation, they recalled glimpses of robed figures but not the distinctive red garments of the Crimson Hand. Instead, they described midnight blue ceremonia, dress decorated with silver constellation patterns. The Celestial Order, one elder identified, expression darkening. Mystics from human territories who believe beast tribes evolved from chaotic essence rather than natural processes. They've sought access to our bloodlines for generations. This historical context suggested coordination between multiple malevolent groups, the Crimson Hand Tar, getting nexus sites directly while others exploited secondary opportunities created by destabilized magical boundaries. The Celestial Order historically lacked capability to manipulate chaotic essence, Lyra noted. Their traditional magical framework centered on astronomical influences rather than dimensional manipulation. Which means they've acquired new knowledge or alliance, Naruto concluded, possibly exploiting disruptions caused by Crimson Hand activities. As night fell over the recovering settlement, more practical concerns demanded attention. Defenses required reinforcement against potential follow-up attacks, while injured defenders needed continuing treatment for corruption exposure. Beyond immediate tactical considerations, Silvermane's surviving leadership sought counts. Regarding evacuation versus fortification. Throughout these discussions, Naruto observed Ghislaine navigating complex emotional currents beneath professional responsibilities. This place represent not merely strategic waypoint but personal heritage, her mother's legacy embedded in every tradition and structure. During brief respite from planning sessions, she sought out the village's memorial grove where fallen warriors were honored. Naruto followed at respectful distance, offering presence without intrusion as she knelt before an elegantly carved wooden monument. The marker bore her name, Keela Silvermane, alongside symbols representing her accomplishments and defining qualities. Ghislaine traced these carvings with gentle reverence that contrasted with her usual decisive movements. I abandoned what she tried to teach me, she spoke without turning, aware of his presence. Believed her flowing style represented weakness that led to her fall. And now I understood. She died not from weakness but facing overwhelming force to protect others. Her voice remained steady despite obvious emotion. Her final battle became legend here. 30 transformed creatures fell before her before she succumbed. Naruto moved closer, offering quiet support through proximity. What would she think of your path? This question prompted genuine consideration rather than automatic response. She valued growth above adherence to tradition. I think. Ghislaine paused, finding words for complex sentiment. I think she would approve of my seeking knowledge beyond our borders. Though perhaps not my initial rejection of her teachings. Integration often follows rejection in the learning process, Naruto observed. The path to wisdom rarely progresses linearly. Their moment of reflection ended when a sentry's horn signaled unexpected approach, not attack but arrival of small party requesting entrance under diplomatic protocols. Investigation revealed 3 individuals of human appearance led by a striking woman whose demeanor immediately commanded attention. Tall and lithe, with raven black hair framing aristocratic features, she carried herself with the practic poise of someone accustomed to navigating dangerous circumstances. Most notable were her eyes, deep violet that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, and the subtle shadow manipulation that surrounded her like half-glimpsed cloak. Serafina Blackthorn, she introduced herself to the gathered leadership council, voice carrying cultured accent from distant human kingdoms. Independent operative seeking specific information regarding recent attacks on Beast Tribe settlements. Her arrival generated immediate suspicion among tribal representatives, but her next statement shifted the dynamic significantly. I tracked a Celestial Order operation to these territories after they abducted children from 3 human border villages using similar tactics. This revelation, that Beast Tribe's weren't the only victims, created reluctant common ground. After establishing basic trust parameters, including voluntary submission to truth verification rituals, Serafina shared intelligence that complemented their existing knowledge. The Celestial Order has historically pursued twisted evolutionary theories claiming superiority of certain bloodlines, she explained during expanded council session. Recent months show dramatic shift in their capabilities and operations scale, suggesting external support or new leadership. Coinciding with Crimson Hand expansion, Ghislaine noted, connecting patterns. Precisely. Serafina produced detailed maps marking attack locations across both human and beast tribe territories. The pattern suggests methodical testing of different populations, response to chaos exposure. With successful subjects transported to Central Processing Facility. Located where? Thorgrim's representative demanded. Unknown precisely, she acknowledged without defensiveness. But evidence points toward the Mistwater Basin region, technically neutral territory between human and beast tribe claims. This information aligned with Silvermane tracking reports that lost trails near the Black River Canyon, which eventually drained into Mistwater Basin. The geographical correlation added credibility to Serafina's intelligence. Throughout this exchange, Naruto observed their unexpected visitor with careful attention. Her presentation combined professional detachment with subtle indicators of personal investment beyond mere information gathering. When discussion turned to victim profiles, momentary tension in her shoulders and minute jaw tightening revealed emotional connection carefully concealed beneath practiced composure. After the formal council concluded, Serafina approached Naruto directly during evening meal distribution. Her movement through the settlement demonstrated unusual awareness of environmental details and unconscious calculity. Of tactical positions, traits suggesting specialized training beyond ordinary diplomatic service. You watch with unusual perception, she noted without preamble, voice pitched for privacy despite the bustling activity surrounding them. Most miss the patterns of spent years learning to conceal. Professional courtesy, Naruto replied with slight smile. One shadow walker recognizing another. The acknowledgement earned brief but genuine smile that transformed her severe features. Accurate assessment. Though your energy signature suggests capabilities beyond conventional stealth disciplines, this direct reference to his draconic nature indicated magical sensitivity exceeding normal human range. Rather than deflection, Naruto opted for measured honesty with this intriguing newcomer. As your shadow manipulation suggests training beyond standard assassination techniques, he countered. The Void School, perhaps. Their graduates typically avoid beast tribe territories. Surprise flickered across her features before professional composure reasserted itself. Well informed for someone clearly not from this continent's human kingdoms. She studied him with renewed interest. Quote, the rumors spreading through intelligence networks mentioned a golden-eyed stranger with dragon aspects emerging from nowhere. I assumed typical information degradation rather than literal accuracy. Their conversation established mutual professional respect through this exchange of demonstrated knowledge rather than posturing. When Ghislaine joined them minutes later, the interaction shifted to practical planning regarding the Celestial Order threat. Your tracking skills would provide significant advantage if we pursue investigation toward Mistwater Basin, Ghislaine acknowledged pragmatically. Though your motivation remains unclear, Serafina considered this challenge with respect rather than offense. Professional initially. I accept contracts to address specific threats, particular RLY those targeting vulnerable populations. And personally, Naruto prompted gently, recognizing deeper currents beneath her controlled exterior. Something flickered behind her violet eyes, calcula. Qian weighing vulnerability against potential alliance benefits. Decision made, she offered carefully measured truth. My younger sister disappeared during a Celestial Order raid 3 months ago. Conventional authorities dismissed the case as ordinary brigand activity despite evidence suggesting otherwise. Her voice remained even but carried steel beneath composure. I possess particular skills suitable for addressing such situations when official channels prove inadequate. The admission transformed their understanding of her involvement from merely professional to deeply personal, emotive. Both Ghislaine and Naruto could respect regardless of cultural differences. Our objectives align sufficiently for cooperation, Ghislaine concluded. Though trust develops through demonstrated actions rather than declared intentions. A philosophy we share, Serafina acknowledged with subtle nod. I request inclusion in your expedition toward Crystal Spires, as Mistwater Basin lies along that route. My skills complement your existing capabilities without duplicating them. After consultation with Lyra and the tribal representatives, this arrangement received conditional approval. Serafina would join their group with understanding that operational security might require limited information sharing until trust fully established. The following days brought intensive preparation for continuation of their journey. Silvermane settlement required assistance establishing improved defenses before the expedition could depart in good conscience. Naruto contributed both practical labor and strategic insights, helping design protection systems incorporating principles from various traditions. During this process, he continued Ghislaine's training, now adapting techniques specific ally to counter the chaotic transformation effects they had encountered. These sessions often drew observers from the settlement, including younger warriors eager to witness the developing techniques. Your mother incorporated similar principles, one elder mentioned after watching particularly elegant sequence. She understood combat as conversation rather than mere opposition. This connection to her maternal legacy visibly affected Ghislaine, who began incorporating specific Silvermane traditions into her practice with newfound appreciation. The integration of her father's power-focused Dedoldia techniques with her mother's flow-oriented Silvermane approach created something genuinely innovative, a synthesis rather than mere combination. Lyra contributed magical protections to the settlement's defenses, working collaboratively with tribal shamans whose intuitive approach complemented her structured techniques. This cooperation itself represented significant development, as Elven East tribe magical collaboration historically proved rare due to cultural differences. Throughout these activities, Serafina maintained careful professional distance while contributing her specialized knowledge of human kingdom politics and celestial order operations. Her intelligence-gathering capabilities proved remarkable. Within days of arrival, she had established information network throughout surrounding territories using methods that impressed even experienced tribal scouts. 4 days after Serafina's arrival, with Silvermane's defenses substantially improved and expedition preparations nearly complete, Naruto detected subtle magical disturbance during evening meditation. The energy pattern suggested scrying attempt, magical observation from distance rather than physical presence. Sophisticated technique, Ryujin's voice noted internally, designed specifically to penetrate draconic awareness barriers. Rather than immediately blocking the observation, Naruto maintained meditative posture while subtly tracing the magical connection to its source. The link led toward distant mountains, coincidentally or significantly along their planned route toward crystal spires. He allowed the observation to continue briefly before closing the connection with precise energy disruption rather than crude severing. This approach communicated awareness of the scrying without revealing defensive capabilities fully, strategic partial information to potential observer. Later that night, he emerged from his assigned quarters to find Serafina waiting in shadows nearby, her expressio suggesting she had detected the same magical intrusion. Celestial Order maintains observatory outposts in those mountains, she noted without preamble. Their astromancers routinely conduct magica surveillance across territories they consider research relevant. This felt more targeted than routine observation, Naruto countered. Specifically calibrated to penetrate draconic energy patterns. This assessment clearly surprised her. Their traditional magical framework lacks such capability. Further evidence of external knowledge acquisition. Their discussion was interrupted by Lyra's arrival. Frost crystallizing around her fingers, sign of agitation in the normally composed elf. Similar scrying attempt targeted my quarters simultaneously. Elven counter techniques identified constellation-based magical signature. Coordinated intelligence gathering, Serafina confirmed. Typical prelude to operational planning rather than mere curiosity. This development accelerated their timeline. If hostile forces actively tracked their movements, strategic advantage lay in immediate departure rather than further preparation. By dawn, the expedition had reorganized for urgent continuation of their journey. With Silvermane's leadership providing additional escorts through territories they controlled. Their farewell to the settlement carried emotional weight, particularly for Ghislaine. The chief elder performed traditional blessing ceremony, presenting her with a ceremonial sash that had belonged to her mother, symbol of both heritage and responsibility. Gila's spirit walks with you, the elder proclaimed. Her wisdom flows through your blade as her blood flows through your veins. Ghislaine accepted this gift with profound respect, wearing the intricately patterned shish across her sword harness where it complemented rather than interfered with combat functionality. The integration perfectly symbolized her developing philosophy, honoring tradition while adapting it to practical purpose. Their expedition now numbered 12. Naruto, Ghislaine, Lyra, Serafina, 4 original tribal warriors, and 4 Silvermane escorts who would accompany them to territorial boundaries. This expanded force moved with impressive efficiency despite diverse backgrounds, each member contributing specialized capabilities to collective effectiveness. 3 days into this journey, they entered increasingly rugged territory where forest gave way to rocky foothills. The landscape channeled travel along specific routes, creating predictable patterns that concerned their tacticians. Limited approach vectors increase ambush vulnerability, Ghislaine noted during planning session. particularly in narrow paths ahead. Serafina studied their maps with professional assessment. Quote, Celestial Order traditionally avoids direct confrontation, preferring manipulation and abduction to open conflict. However, recent operational changes suggest conventional tactical analysis may no longer apply. We maintain triple-point security regardless, Ghislaine decided. Forward scouts, perimeter awareness, and rearguard validation at all times. This precaution proved prescient when the IR advanced scouts reported unusual activity ahead, not military formation but disturbing environmental anomalies. Trees grew at impossible angles, wildlife exhibited unnatural behaviors, and atmosphere. Sea conditions created localized fog banks that moved against prevailing winds. Chaos bleed effects, Lyra identified after magical investigation. Similar to Nexus degradation but smaller scale and apparently deliberate. Someone has established controlled release points rather than catastrophic breach. Testing environmental effects rather than direct subject exposure, Serafina suggested. Consistent with Celestial Order experimental methodology. The expedition diverted from their planned route to investigate these anomalies while maintaining safe distance. What they discovered provided disturbing confirmation of Serafina's assessment. Carefully constructed devices positioned at strategic locations throughout the valley, each releasing measured amounts of chaotic energy into the surrounding environment. Ecosystem corruption experiment, Lyra concluded after examining one device from safe distance. Documenting adaptation or degradation responses in various organic systems. Can they be neutralized safely? Ghislaine asked. With proper precautions, yes, the Elven Mage confirmed. Though doing so will alert their creators to external interference. After strategic consultation, they decided to neutralize 3 devices while leaving 2 apparently untouched but secretly disabled, a compromise between immediate threat reduction and intelligence gathering. This operation proceeded with careful coordination, with Lyra disabling the magical components while Naruto contained potential energy discharge. As predicted, their interference triggered response within hours. Monitoring crystals, Serafina had positioned along likely approach routes, detected movement from multiple directions, organized groups converging on their position with clear purpose. Not transformed victims, she reported after observing one such group through specialized equipment. Trained operatives in Celestial Order ceremonial armor. They've escalated to direct engagement. This development, forced tactical decision, continue toward crystal spires with pursuit following, or address the threat directly under conditions they could partially control. After brief consultation, Ghislaine made a commanding decision that reflected her growing leadership capability. We established defensive position with favorable terrain, allowing pursuit elements to converge, she determined. Better to rest this threat now than have it follow us into unknown territories ahead. Her assessment proved sound. They selected defensible position atop rocky outcropping that provided excellent visibility while limiting approach vectors. Serafina and the tribal scouts prepared subtle traps along likely advance routes, while Lyra established magical early warning system around their perimeter. When the Celestial Order forces arrived, they demonstrated unexpected tactical sophistication. Rather than direct assault against superior position, they established containment cordon beyond effective engagement range. Their leader, distinguished by elaborate silver astronomical symbols adorning midnight blue robes, sent single representative forward under formal parley protocols. The messenger carried RP Rising proposition. The Celestial Order requested direct conversation with the Dragon Blessed One, regarding matters of mutual cosmic significance. They offered temporary non-aggression pact for duration of this discussion. Obvious trap, Ghislaine stated flatly. They seek to separate our strongest asset from defensive formation. Agreed, Lyra concurred. Though their approach suggests they value information exchange above immediate conflict. Serafina's assessment added important context. The Celestial Order's operational doctrine prioritizes knowledge acquisition over direct victory. They likely seek understanding of draconic essence for their research rather than simple elimination. This insight provided strategic opportunity. After careful consideration, Naruto proposed counter-offer. Meeting at neutral position equidistant between forces, with both sides limited to 3 representatives and magical protections verified by independent methods. The proposal received acceptance with specific condition added. the Celestial Order representative requested permission to perform simple astronomical alignment verification before substantial discussion. This peculiar request generated suspicion but ultimately received conditional approval subject to magical monitoring by Lyra. The meeting occurred at sunset at the valley's center, with carefully negotiated security protocols established by both parties. Naruto represented their expedition, accompanied by Ghislaine and Lyra, while the Celestial Order sent their leader and two robed attendants. Close observatio. N revealed the leader as woman of indeterminate age, her features bearing subtle signs of magical preservation rather than natural longevity. When she spoke, her voice carried peculiar harmonic quality, i.e. suggesting regular exposure to extraplanar energies. I am Celestark Morwena, she introduced herself with formal bow. Thank you for agreeing to this exchange. May I perform the alignment verification? It requires observing your essence against the emerging stars, harmless but informative. After Lyra confirmed the described procedure contained no offensive magical components, Naruto permitted this unusual examination. The Celestark produced crystalline instrument resembling astrolabe but with additional dimensional components that defied conventional geometry. As twilight deepened around them, she observed Naruto through this device while murmuring calculations in archaic dialect. Her expression transformed from clinical detachment to profound astonishment as the process continued. When she finally lowered the instrument, her hands trembled visibly despite obvious effort at control. Verification complete, she stated, voice betraying excitement beneath professional demeanor. You indeed carry essence of Eastern Heaven Dragon, Ryujin himself. The celestial alignment confirms concordance with ancient prophecy regarding the scales of destiny. This reference to specific prophecy unknown to them created immediate strategic disadvantage. Naruto maintained neutral expression while Ghislaine shifted subtly to optimize defensive posture. You possess information regarding draconic essence integration, Naruto observed, neither confirming nor denying her assertion. The Celestial Order has preserved astronomical records since before the Dragon Wars, Morwena explained. Professional excitement overriding caution. Our founders witnessed the shattering of Ryujin's essence across dimensional boundaries and recorded the celestial configuration that would herald potential reconstitution. This historical claim, if accurate, suggested the organization possessed legitimate astronomical knowledge predating their current questionable activities. Lyra, whose Shola RLY background included historical validation techniques, subtly signaled that the Celestarch's linguistic patterns and reference framework suggested authentic connection to ancient scholarly tradition. Yet your current activities involve experimental application of chaotic energies against innocent populations, Naruto noted, direct confrontation requiring acknowledgement. Morwena's expression shifted, complex mixture of defensive justification and genuine regret. Necessary preparation for coming convergence. The dimensional boundaries thin as prophesied. We require understanding of adaptation potential before full manifestation occurs. By kidnapping children and exposing settlements to corruption, Ghislaine challenged, controlled anger evident beneath formal diplomatic engagement. Regrettable methodologies necessitated by accelerated timeline, the Celestark acknowledged without real remorse. The Crimson Hand's activities forced adjustment to our research parameters. They seek to facilitate what we prepare to survive. This admission confirmed connection between the organizations while establishing critical distinction in objectives. The Crimson Hand actively pursued C. Howe's manifestation while Celestial Order apparently sought preparation for anticipated catastrophe. You experiment on unwilling subjects to develop protection for your chosen few, Lyra summarized with elven precision. Sacrificing others to preserve yourselves. We preserve knowledge and adaptive potential, Morwena corrected, genuine conviction evident. When chaos fully manifests, only those with properly prepared biological and spiritual frameworks will survive. Our work ensures continuation of consciousness beyond the coming transition. The conversation revealed disturbing philosophical framework beneath Celestial Order activities. They viewed their victims as necessary sacrifices in larger cosmic struggle rather than innocent casualties. This perspective made them potentially more dangerous than simple power seekers, as their actions carried perceived moral justification. Where are your research subjects currently held? Naruto asked directly. The Celestark smiled with professional appreciation for direct approach. Information exchange requires reciprocity. We've shared significant historical context regarding draconic prophecy. Equivalent value would be understanding of how human consciousness maintains integrity during draconic essence integration. This negotiation frame established clear parameters. They sought specific information about Naruto's merged consciousness. Strategic assessment suggested providing carefully limited insight might yield critical intelligence regarding captive locations. Integration succeeds when both consciousness patterns maintain respect for mutual boundaries. Naruto offered, sharing truth with strategic omissions. Domination attempts by either component result in degradation of both. Morwena absorbed this information with scholarly intensity, making subtle notes in small journal. After consideration, she offered corresponding exchange. Primary research facility operates beneath Mistwater Observatory. 3 levels of progressive transformation studies, with successful adaptation candidates transferred to final preparation chamber at Crystal Ascension. The reference to Crystal Ascension, location apparent L.Y. connected to their Crystal Spire's destination, confirmed intersection between their objectives and Celestial Order operations. This convergence suggested impending confrontation regardless of current diplomatic exchange. Their conversation continued for nearly an hour, each side extracting valuable information while carefully protecting critical knowledge. Throughout this exchange, Naruto maintained awareness of Ryujin's consciousness, which provided historical context regarding astronomical prophecies the Celestarch referenced. Their fundamental premise contains partial accuracy, the dragon god acknowledged internally. Dimensional boundaries do indeed weaken during certain celestial alignments. However, their interpretation of necessary response represents dangerous misunderstanding of adaptive requirements. As their meeting concluded with formal acknowledgments but no resolution, Morwena offered parting observation that carried both warning and invitation. Our paths will converge again at Crystal Ascension, she stated with absolute certainty. The stars have decreed this intersection. Whether as adversaries or reluctant allies against greater threat remains determined. By choices between now and convergence. With formal parting protocols observed, both parties withdrew to their respective positions. The Celestial Order forces broke camp with remarkable efficiency, departing southward rather than continuing pursuit, behavior suggesting strategic repositioning rather than abandonment of interest. Once safely returned to their defensive position, the expedition's leadership convened to analyze implications of this encounter. Serafina contributed crucial context regarding Celestial Order operational history. Morwena represents Reform faction within their hierarchy, she explained. Traditional Celestial Order focused primarily on astronomical observation and recording. The experimental division emerged only within past decade, generating internal conflict between purist scholars and pragmatic interventionists. Reform suggesting ethical deterioration rather than improvement, Lyra noted with characteristic precision. Exactly. Their shift from observation to experimentation coincided with astronomical discoveries regarding cyclical dimensional boundary fluctuations. Serafina produced journal containing relevant intelligence. Their Prof. ECY framework apparently identified coming alignment as particularly significant, something they call the Grand Convergence. This terminology resonated with Ryujin's ancient knowledge. The Celeste IAL conjunction occurs approximately every 7,000 years, his consciousness explained internally to Naruto. During previous cycle, the Devourer first penetrated dimensional boundaries into this world. The approaching conjunction represents first complete cycle since those events. Naruto shared this insight with the group, adding critical historical context to their understanding of current threats. The timing correlation between Celestial Order's escalated activities, Crimson Hand operations, and his own arrival with Ryujin's essence suggested cosmic forces approaching significant inflection point. So the Crimson Hand seeks to facilitate the Devourer's return during this convergence, while Celestial Order attempts to develop chaos-resistant subjects to survive the aftermath, Ghislaine summarized. Both threatening innocent populations through different justification frameworks. And our journey to Crystal Spires intersects with their Crystal Ascension facility, Lyra added, suggesting either common objective or deliberate interference with our mission. This complex situation demanded careful strategic planning. After extensive discussion, they determined to continue toward Crystal Spires with increased caution, now prepared for potential Celestial Order presence at their destination. Additionally, they would adjust their route to investigate Mistwater Observatory, seeking both intelligence and potential rescue of research subjects. As night settled around their camp, Naruto found Serafina maintaining solitary watch position slightly removed from main group. Her posture suggested internal conflict rather than simple vigilance. The Celestarch's information regarding research facility location provides lead for your sister, he observed, approaching with deliberate noise to avoid startling someone with her training. Yes, her acknowledgement carried complex emotions beneath controlled exterior. Though I've withheld certain information from you, our group that now requires disclosure given this development. This voluntary admission immediately captured Naruto's full attention. I'm listening. Serafina maintained focus on distant horizon while speaking. Professional discipline creating emotional distance from difficult revelation. My presence here isn't coincidental. I was originally contracted to eliminate you specifically. The direct confession, delivered without preamble, demonstrated both professional integrity and strategic calculation. Rather than responding with alarm or accusation, Naruto simply asked, by whom? Anonym. Ouse contract through Shadow Guild intermediaries, she explained. Standard protection protocols preventing client identification. The target description specified, golden-eyed stranger with dragon as pects operating in beast tribe territories. Yet instead of attempting assassination, you've integrated with our expedition and shared valuable intelligence, Naruto observed. Suggesting contract abandonment. Correct. She finally turned to face him directly, violet eyes reflecting starlight. Two factors prompted reconsideration. First, direct observation revealed your activities protect INNO-sent populations rather than threatening them as contract implied. Second, she hesitated before continuing with ruthless honesty. Second, I recognized opportunity to leverage your capabilities for locating my sister. Representing higher personal priority than contract fulfillment. This candid acknowledgement of both ethical and self-interested motivations carried ring of complete truth. Naruto appreciated the complexity of her decision rather than reducing it to simple moral judgment. When did you decide against contract completion? During observation period at Silvermane Settlement, she admitted. Watching your interactions with defenders and injured demonstrated character inconsistent with legitimate threat assessment. The timeline suggested she had made this determinatio before fully confirming her sister's potential location, choosing ethical path before guaranteed personal benefit. This sequence revealed more about her core character than her professional presentation suggested. I appreciate your honesty, Naruto acknowledged. Though curious about timing of this disclosure, the Celestial Order connection creates potential conflict of interest you deserve awareness of. She explained pragmatically. My contract originated shortly after their observation outposts reported draconic energy signature in beast territories. The correlation suggests they Lee commissioned your elimination through intermediaries before deciding direct contact held greater value. This information completed important intelligence puzzle pieces, explaining both the I-Nation contract and the Celestial Order's subsequent diplomatic approach. Their strategic framework apparently evolved from elimination to research once they confirmed draconic essence involvement. Will you inform the others? Serafina asked, professional composure maintained despite obvious recognition of potential consequences. Yes, but with appropriate context, Naruto decided. Your Volu Nt-Airy disclosure demonstrates both integrity and trust-building intention that deserves acknowledgement. Relief flickered briefly across her features before professional reserve reasserted itself. Logical assessment. For complete disclosure, I should add that while I've abandoned the original contract, Shadow Guild protocols technically consider it suspended rather than terminated. Others may eventually receive similar commission if the client redirects resources. This warning carried significant practical value, alerting them to potential future threat without Serafina violating professional ethical frameworks completely. The balanced disclosure demonstrated sophisticated moral navigation of competing obligations, personal, professional, and newly forming allegiance. When Naruto shared this information with Ghislaine and Lyra the following morning, their reactions reflected their distinct personalities and backgrounds. Lyra analyzed implications with scholarly detachment, identifying logical patterns in the revealed connections. Ghislaine initially responded with protective anger that quickly transformed into grudging respect for Serafina's voluntary disclosure. Profession. Al integrity within morally complex framework, she acknowledged. Behavior worthy of conditional trust advancement. This assessment perfectly captured their evolving relationship with the Shadow Operative, developing alliance built on demonstrated actions rather than assumed loyalty. When informed of their leader's response, Serafina accepted the measured trust with appropriate professional appreciation. Their journey resumed with renewed purpose and enhanced understanding of the forces converging around them. The path toward Mistwater Observatory would test not only their combat capabilities but their strategic adaptability as multiple factions with distinct objectives maneuvered across increasingly complex political landscape. The following days brought journey through territories showing progressive signs of chaotic influence, subtle at first, then increasingly pronounced as they approached Mistwater Basin. Vegetation exhibited unnatural growth patterns, while wildlife displayed behavioral anomalies suggesting neurological disruption. Controlled release rather than accidental exposure, Lyra determined after examining affected area. Precisely calibrated corruption gradient, Chi measuring adaptation thresholds in different organisms. Serafina's reconnaissance identified multiple observation points throughout the region, small installations where Celestial Order researchers apparently documented environmental changes. These outposts maintained minimal security, focusing on data collection rather than territorial control. Strategic assessment suggested avoiding direct engagement with these monitoring stations while gathering intelligence regarding the main research facility. Naruto and Serafina conducted careful reconnaissance operation, utilizing their complementary stealth capabilities to approach Mistwater Observatory's outer perimeter undetected. What they discovered confirmed their concerns while adding new complications. The observatory complex occupied massive promontory overlooking Mistwater Lake, a substantial installation combining astronomical research facilities with recently expanded underground sections. Security measures included both conventional guards and magical detection systems of considerable sophistication. 3 primary entrance points, Serafina identified during their report to the expedition leadership. Main Observatory entrance with highest security concentration, supply tunnel with moderate protection, and water intake system with minimal conventional guards but significant magical monitoring. Population estimate, Ghislaine inquired, focusing on tactical parameters. Approximately 60 research personnel, 40 security specialists, and unknown number of subjects, Naruto provided. Energy signatures Saint at least 30 individuals exhibiting chaos exposure at various progression stages. This information prompted intensive planning session. Direct assault against facility of this size exceeded their current force capabilities. While infiltration presented significant challenges given magical detection systems. Eventually, they developed hybrid approach combining distraction, focused infiltration, and contingency planning. The operation would require perfect coordination between 3 elements. Ghislaine would lead diversionary force creating impression of tribal raiding party attacking northern perimeter. Lyra would establish magical counterference masking Naruto and Serafina's infiltration through water intake system, while the remaining expedition members maintained secure extraction position. Preparations consumed entire day, with each team member rehearsing specific responsibilities while equipment was adapted for specialized requirements. Throughout this process, Naruto noted evolving group dynamics, particularly how Serafina's initial outsider status had transformed through demonstrated competence and voluntary vulnerability. The Shadow Operative now received genuine inclusion in planning discussions. Her expertise respected despite lingering caution. As darkness descended over Mistwater Basin, final preparations gave way to execution. Ghislaine's diversionary team departed first, circling to approach from northern vector where security patterns showed predictable response protocols. Their attack would begin precisely 90 minutes after departure, providing optimal timing for infiltration team positioning. Naruto and Serafina approached the facility from southern shoreline, utilizing underwater passage requiring specialized breathing techniques. Lyra's magic provided both concealment from detection systems and enhanced physical capability to withstand extended submersion. The infiltration proceeded according to plan until they reached the water intake filtering chamber. Here they encountered unexpected complication. the system had been recently modified with additional security measures beyond their intelligence assessment. Essence Recognition Matrix, Serafina identified. Examining the magical barrier without touching it. Keyed to specific energy signatures rather than generic detection parameters. This sophisticated system required immediate tactical adjustment. Naruto accessed deeper draconic capabilities, manipulating his energy signature to create interference pattern that temporarily confused the detection matrix. This technique provided 20-second window for both of them to pass before the system would reset and potentially trigger alarms. Once inside primary facility infrastructure, they proceeded according to their intelligence map, avoiding patrol routes while advancing toward central research levels. The architecture confirmed Celestial Order's recent expansion. Older sections featured traditional astronomical symbolism and elegant construction, while newer areas displayed utilitarian design focused on containment and experimental functionality. They reached the first research level without detection, ending disturbing confirmation of reported activities. Glass observation chambers lined clinical corridors, each containing subjects at various stages of chaos exposure. Documentation panels beside CH chamber detailed progression metrics and adaptation assessments in dispassionate scientific terminology that belied the suffering evident within. Serafina located central control station for this level, accessing research logs while Naruto established lookout position. The information she extracted painted horrifying picture of systematic experimentation, subjects classified by genetic factors, exposure resistance, and transformation stability metrics. They're categorizing bloodlines by chaos adaptation potential, she reported, violet eyes hard with controlled rage. Beast tribes show highest natural resistance, followed by certain human lineages with historical magical exposure. Failures are designated for resource recovery, while successful adaptations advance to ascension preparation. Any indication of primary subject locations? Naruto asked, maintaining focus on immediate objectives despite the atrocities surrounding them. Level 3 contains advanced integration subjects according to these logs. She confirmed. Includes specific notation regarding juvenile specimens demonstrating exceptional stability metrics. This information aligned with their rescue priorities while suggesting time sensitivity. Subjects designated for ascension preparation apparently faced imminent transfer to the Crystal Ascension facility. They proceeded deeper into the complex, utilizing service conduits to avoid main corridors where security presence intensified. The diversion operations' effectiveness became evident as alarm systems indicated security reallocation toward northern perimeter. Ghislaine's team had successfully created impression of determined but straightforward tribal raid, drawing response forces away from internal sections while avoiding direct engagement that might risk casualties. When they reached level 3, the experimental nature of the facility became even more pronounced. Unlike the observational focus of upper levels, this area contained active processing chambers where subjects underwent controlled exposure to chaotic energies under precise measurement protocols. There, Serafina whispered, indicating secured chamber at corridor's end. Juvenile containment section according to designation markings. Before they could approach this objective, alarm klaxons suddenly blared throughout the facility, not security breach notification but evacuation protocol. Announcement system activated with computerized voice delivering unexpected message. Attention all personnel. Containment failure detected in primary integration chamber. Unstable resonance cascade imminent. Emergency protocols activated. Proceed to designated evacuation points immediately. The announcement repeated in continuous loop while emergency lighting replaced standard illumination. Research personnel emerged from laboratories, moving with practiced efficiency toward evacuation routes while security teams established containment perimeters at strategic junctions. Ghislaine's diversion shouldn't have triggered facility-wide evacuation, Naruto noted, immediately assessing alternate explanations. Something else initiated emergency protocols. They utilized the resulting confusion to advance toward juvenile containment, finding security reduced as personnel prioritized evacuation over standard protective posture. When they reached the chamber, the scene confirmed their intelligence. 12 containment pods arranged in circular pattern, each holding adolescent subject from various races including beast tribes, humans, and even one young elf. Serafina moved immediately to Control Console, bypassing security with practiced efficiency. Containment release requires authorization override and power distribution interruption simultaneously. She determined after quick assessment. Working in coordinated silence, they executed precision extraction operation, Naruto establishing power distribution override while Serafina manipulated authorization protocols. Within minutes, the containment systems deactivated, allowing access to unconscious subjects maintained in stasis fields. Sedation should wear off within 20 minutes of stasis termination, Serafina noted. Checking medical monitors. We need extraction route clear before they regain consciousness. As they prepared transport arrangements for 12 unconscious subjects, the facility's structural integrity began degrading noticeably. Periodic tremors intensified, while monitoring systems indicated progressive containment failures throughout research levels. Something attempts manifestation. Ryujin's voice warned internally, similar to Nexus of Binding incident but smaller scale and apparently deliberate rather than accidental. Asterisk. This assessment suggested, concerning possibility, the evacuation might represent controlled experiment rather than genuine emergency. If Celestial Order researchers had intentionally initiated contained manifestation process, they might be documenting facility-wide response patterns as part of their research protocol. The hypothesis gained credibility when automated research logs continued recording despite evacuation, ca. Maris maintaining observation throughout affected areas. This discovery necessitated immediate communication with their extraction team, warning of potential broader danger beyond simple rescue operation. Naruto established temporary connection with Lyra using magical communication device she had provided, conveying situation update and changed parameters. Her response confirmed their extraction. Team had already detected unusual energy patterns emanating from the facility. Be advised, her voice came through with elven clarity despite magical interference, manifestation signature growing exponentially. Recommend immediate withdrawal regardless of objective completion status. With evacuation route determined and subjects prepared for transport, they began carefully moving through increasingly unstable facility. The manifestation effects grew more pronounced as they progressed, reality distortions appearing at corridor intersections, while ambient temperature fluctuated dramatically between sections. When they reached the secondary evacuation route they had designated for extraction, they encountered unexpected obstacle, security checkpoint where 3 Celestial Order guards NTAINED positioned despite evacuation orders. Unlike standard security personnel, these individuals wore specialized containment suits suggesting awareness of manifestation dangers. Advanced containment specialists, Serafina identified in whispered assessment. Trained specifically for chaos exposure scenarios. Standard neutralization unlikely to succeed. Before they could develop alternative approach, the security team's attention shifted to something behind them in the corridor. Their expressions transformed from professional alertness to undisguised horror as they activated maximum action protocols on their containment suits. Naruto turned to identify the new threat, discovering disturbing manifestation advancing along corridor, what appeared initially as humanoid figure reveal. D itself is something fundamentally wrong upon closer observation. Its proportions subtly violated geometric principles, while surfaces shifted between solid matter and something else entirely. Uncontained integration subject, Serafina identified grimly. Final stage transformation when chaos exposure exceeds biological containment parameters. The entity moved with unsettling irregularity, times flowing like liquid and other times shifting position without traversing intervening space. When it encountered the security checkpoint, the confrontation ended with disturbing abruptness. The entity simply passed through supposedly specialized containment barriers, transforming the guards through mere proximity contact. Their transformation occurred with horrifying rapidity, organized biological structures dissolving into chaotic patterns that retained vague humanoid shape but violated fundamental physical principles. Within seconds, where 3 guards had stood, 3 new entities gone forming with similar wrongness to the original manifestation. Exponential proliferation, Naruto observed with grim understanding. Each conversion potentially creates new conversion vector. His development fundamentally changed their extraction parameters. Not only did they need to transport unconscious subjects to safety, but they now faced actively hostile manifestation entities with apparent conversion capability. Direct confrontation carried unacceptable risk given proximity to vulnerable subjects. Alternative route required, Serafina determined, quickly consulting facility schematics she had memorized. Maintenance shaft 2 levels up connects to water management system. Longer but potentially uncompromised. They changed direction immediately, utilizing service ladders to ascend while carefully managing unconscious subjects with harness systems. The facility's deterioration accelerated noticeably during this process, with structural integrity warnings blaring through remaining functional announcement systems. The manifestation creates cascading reality disruption, Ryujin's consciousness explained. Each conversion weakens dimensional boundaries further, accelerating the process geometrically. This assessment suggested time pressure beyond simple extraction concerns. If the manifestation reached critical mass, the entire Mistwater Basin region could face catastrophic reality distortion. This elevated their mission from rescue operation to potential regional disaster prevention. When they reached the maintenance level, they encountered another disturbing development, evidence of deliberate sabotage rather than system failure. Critical junction boxes had been manually disabled, while containment override protocols showed activation signatures inconsistent with emergency procedures. This wasn't accident or experiment gone wrong, Serafina concluded, examining the evidence. Deliberate initiation with disabled safeguards. Someone wanted containment failure. The implication suggested internal conflict within Celestial Order, faction potentially working against established research protocols to force manifestation scenario. This internal sabotage explained the genuine surprise evident among evacuating researchers they had observed. Their extraction route led through water management section where minimal security would normally be maintained. As they approached this area, they detected indicators of external breach. Someone had entered facility through same route they planned to exit. Cautious advance revealed unexpected ally, Ghislaine. Anya had led small infiltration team through water system after completing diversion operation. Her tactical assessment had identified facility-wide alert as opportunity for secondary infiltration. Main security focused on evacuation and containment. Situation assessment. She requested immediately upon secure rendezvous, professional focus overriding natural questions about their rescued subjects. Deliberate containment failure creating cascading manifestation effect, Naruto summarized efficiently. Extraction priority with secondary containment objective if feasible. Ghislaine processed this information with impressive speed, immediately integrating their rescue group into her team's formation. Lyra maintains extraction position with remaining team members. Fastest route through northwest water channels. Their combined team moved with coordinated efficiency despite the challenge of transporting unconscious subjects through maintenance tunnels. As they progressed, fossil ITY degradation intensified, physical architecture literally dissolving in sections where manifestation effect reached critical concentration. Serafina suddenly froze, attention focused on one particular subject they transported, adolescent female with features sharing subtle but unmistakable similarity to her own. Recognition dawned in her expression, momentarily cracking professional composure. "Arya," she whispered, hand briefly touching the unconscious girl's face before discipline reasserted itself. "Extraction priority unchanged," she stated firmly, though increased determination radiated from her entire bearing. They reached Water Channel Junction where facility systems connected to lake intake. Here they faced final obstacle. Emergency containment doors had activated, requiring override or alternative breach method. While Serafina worked on control systems, Naruto sensed approaching threat, multiple manifestation entities converging on their position from within facility. Containment breach imminent, he warned, positioning himself between approaching threat and extraction group. Prepare alternative exit strategy. Ghislaine immediately directed her team to prepare head demolition charges against weakest section of external wall, contingency measure they had brought for potential extraction complications. Meanwhile, Serafina continued bypass attempts on legitimate exit route, working with remarkable focus despite knowing her sister lay unconscious mere feet away. The manifestation entities reached adjacent corridor junction moments before either exit option could be completed. Unlike previous encounter, these demonstrated more organized behavior, suggesting developing intelligence within chaotic framework rather than simple corruption vector. Naruto made instantaneous strategic decision, stepping forward alone to create defensive position while others completed extraction preparations. Drawing deeply on draconic energy, he established golden barrier. Across corridor junction, not solid obstruction but energy field specifically calibrated to disrupt chaotic manifestation patterns. Ryujin no Kekai, he named the technique, ancient draconic symbols. Materializing within the energy field to reinforce its conceptual framework. The manifestation entities reacted with apparent recognition to draconic energy, their chaotic patterns momentarily stabilizing into more coherent forms before resuming dissolution. This response suggested remnant consciousness within corrupted frameworks, recognizing draconic essence as something significant to their transformed state. Ready for controlled breach, Ghislaine reported, her team having completed demolition preparations while evacuation subjects were secured for immediate transport. Override achieved simultaneously, Serafina announced. Security systems finally yielding to her specialized expertise. This presented optimal extraction option, legitimate exit minimized structural damage that might accelerate manifestation spread. While demolition charges provided backup if containment field failed before complete evacuation. Begin primary extraction sequence, Naruto directed, maintaining concentration on containment field where manifestation entities had begun coordinated effort to penetrate the barrier. The extraction proceeded with remarkable efficiency given circumstances, Unconcio. As subjects transferred through water channel system toward extraction team waiting at secure distance. Ghislaine supervised this operation with precise coordination, maintaining communication with Lee Ra's position to ensure seamless transition. As final subjects entered extraction route, the manifestation entities achieved partial penetration of Naruto's containment field. The breach manifested as golden energy distortions where chaotic patterns established interference zones in the barrier's fundamental structure. Extraction 90% complete, Ghislaine reported, only 2 subjects remaining for transport. Field integrity assessment, degrading but sufficient, Naruto responded, channeling additional energy to reinforce compromised sections. Complete extraction priority over containment maintenance. Serafina supervised transfer of final subjects, including her sister Arya, with professional discipline despite obvious personal investment. Once evacuation route secured all subjects, she turned to Naruto with clear recognition of his exposed position. Extraction complete. Implement personal withdrawal immediately. The manifestation entities had achieved approximately 30% penetration of the containment field, progression suggesting complete breach within 90 seconds at current degradation rate. This timeline allowed narrow margin for personal extract. Ion while maintaining sufficient containment to prevent immediate pursuit. Initiate controlled demolition upon my mark, Naruto instructed Ghislaine, who maintained detonation control for their contingency explosives. Timing synchronized with field collapse for maximum containment effect. With practiced precision, Naruto began controlled withdrawal while simultaneously preparing field collapse sequence. The technique required perfect timing, maintaining sufficient energy to prevent manifestation advance while gradually reducing structural integrity in pattern that would channel collapse energy to reinforce temporary physical barrier created by demolition. When he reached extraction threshold position, Naruto executed final phase, controlled energy pulse that simultaneously collapsed high-S containment field while triggering Ghislaine's detonation signal. The resulting synchronized destruction created cascading effect that temporarily sealed manifestation entities behind combination of physical debris and residual draconic energy. Barrier established with estimated 20-minute integrity, he assessed as they completed extraction through water channel system. Sufficient for pre-Mary evacuation but inadequate for permanent containment. This assessment informed their immediate tactical priorities as they rejoined Lyra and the extraction team at predetermined rendezvous point. Approximately 1 kilometer from facility. The combined force now included 12 rescued subjects beginning to show signs of sedation wearing off, necessitating medical intervention before full consciousness returned. Lyra immediately implemented treatment protocols for chaos exposure, utilizing combination of elven purification techniques and conventional medical stabilization. Meanwhile, Lane established defensive perimeter while monitoring facility for signs of manifestation breach beyond their temporary containment. Serafina focused entirely on her sister, administering specialized ed treatment drawn from her extensive knowledge of celestial order methodologies. The young woman, appearing approximately 16 years old, showed concerning signs of early-stage transformation despite lacking the advanced symptoms of other subjects. Containment holding temporarily, Ghislaine reported after scout team assessment. But facility degradation accelerating beyond physical structure. Ambient energy patterns suggest regional contamination potential within hours without intervention. This evaluation presented critical decision point. Their rescue operation had succeeded, but large threat to surrounding region remained active. Evacuation alone would save immediate victims but potentially condemn larger population to manifestation exposure if containment completely failed. We need more comprehensive containment solution, Naruto determined, accessing Ryujin's knowledge regarding chaos manifestation protocols. The facility's original research included emergency purificate ion systems that might be adapted for our purposes. Lyra looked up from treating a young beast tribe boy, frost crystals forming around her fingers as she calculated magical requirements. Theoretic. All possibility exists for containing regional effect through synchronized barrier implementation, but resource requirements exceed our current capabilities. Their discussion was interrupted by Dista. NT explosion as primary facility experienced catastrophic structural failure. The manifestation had reached critical mass within the complex, completely dissolving normal reality constraints throughout the installation. Chaotic energy surged skyward in crimson column visible for miles, while reality distortions began spreading outward in concentric waves. Regional evacuation now essential regardless of containment attempt. Ghislaine assessed pragmatically. Nearest settlements require immediate warning. This escalation forced division of their resources. Evacuation coordination required leadership capabilities while containment attempt needed specialized knowledge. After brief consultation, responsibilities were assigned according to optimal capability matching. Ghislaine would lead evacuation operation, utilizing Beast Tribe communication networks to spread warning throughout region. Lyra would coordinate medical stabilization for rescued subjects while preparing transportation to secure location. Naruto and Serafina would attempt emergency containment measures using specialized knowledge of facility systems and chaos energy dynamics. 2-hour operational window maximum. Naruto estimated based on manifestation expansion rate. Beyond that threshold, regional containment becomes mathematically impossible with available resources. This timeline created extreme pressure on all operational elements. Ghislaine immediately dispatched runners to nearest settlements while establishing emergency evacuation routes. Lyra accelerated treatment protocols to prepare subjects for immediate transport, prioritizing stabilization over complete recovery. Naruto and Serafina prepared for extraordinarily dangerous mission, approaching actively manifesting chaos zone to implement theoretical containment protocol with minimal resources and insufficient time. Their strategy required accessing secondary research facility they had identified during reconnaissance, smaller install. Asian containing emergency containment technologies developed as safeguard against precisely this scenario. The Celestial Order anticipated potential containment failure, Serafina explained as they moved toward this location. Standard research protocol includes development of countermeasures against worst-case scenarios, typically maintained at separate facility to ensure availability regardless of primary installation status. This assessment proved accurate when they reached the secondary research bunker approximately 1 kilometer east of main facility. The installation remained intact despite proximity to manifestation, its specialized shielding maintaining structural integrity against reality distortions. Inside they discovered exactly what theoretical models suggested: prototype containment system designed specifically for chaos manifestation scenarios. The technology combined conventional particle physics with magical binding techniques, creating field effect that could theoretically establish reality reinforcement zone against manifestation spread. Designed for controlled implementation under optimal conditions, Serafina noted after examining operational parameters. Not emergency deployment with minimal personnel. Adaptation required, Naruto acknowledged, already identifying critical systems and potential modification requirements. Field projection needs. Recalibration for current manifestation signature rather than theoretical models. What followed demonstrated remarkable synergy between their complementary capabilities. Serafina's specialized No.WL edge of celestial order technology provided operational framework, while Naruto's draconic energy manipulation allowed system modifications beyond original design parameters. They worked with silent efficiency, reconfiguring complex systems while manifestation continued expanding beyond original facility. Periodic communication with Ghislaine confirmed evacuation progressing successfully, but WITH concerning proximity between chaos boundary and civilian populations. Evacuation 60% complete, her voice reported through communication crystal. Manifestation boundary advancing faster than projected. Containment timeline assessment. Implementation approximately 15 minutes from completion. Naruto responded while maintaining precise calibration adjustments. Operational effectiveness probability approximately 70% with current modifications. This represented their best possible outcome given circumstances, less than optimal probability but significantly better than regional catastrophe without intervention. As they completed final preparations, Serafina paused briefly before initiating deployment sequence. This system requires direct interface with chaos boundary, she noted with professional detachment masking obvious implication. Someone must manually establish initial connection before automated systems engage. The requirement created clear decision point. Someone would need to approach active manifestation zone, risking direct exposure to chaotic energy. Naruto immediately recognized her unstated intention to volunteer for this role. Quote, "My draconic essence provides natural resistance against chaos corruption," he countered pragmatically. "Logical efficiency dictates I establish connection while you maintain system stability here." For a brief moment, professional calculation warred with personal feeling in her expression. Then practicality prevailed as she acknowledged the validity of his assessment. Accepted. System coordinatio. And more effective with my oversight given familiarity with architecture. Her violet eyes met his directly. Exposure tolerance approximately 90 seconds maximum before corruption risk exceeds acceptable parameters. With operational roles established, they completed final preparations for containment attempt. The system required synchronized activation between boundary interface and control center, creating brief window where both vulnerability and maximum effectiveness coincided. As Naruto prepared to approach manifestation boundary with interface module, Serafina broke professional protocol momentarily, placing hand on his arm with unexpected gesture. "When this concludes," she stated quietly, "I have contractual debt to balance." The Shadow Guild recognizes life debt exchange as legitimate contract resolution. The statement represented significant professional and personal commitment, acknowledging both her abandoned assassination contract and establishing formal recognition of his contribution to her sister's rescue. Naruto acknowledged this with simple nod, understanding the meaningful framework such declaration represented within her professional ethical structure. With final preparations complete, he departed toward manifestation boundary carrying specialized interface module. The approach required navigating increasingly distorted reality zones where physical laws became progressively unreliable. Draconic energy provided limited protection against these effects, creating stable pathway through otherwise impassable distortions. When he reached designated interface position approximately 50 meters from active manifestation core, the full horror of chaotic transformation became evident. Reality itself had dissolved into swirling patterns of impossible geometry. While converted entities moved through this environment with disturbing facility, neither fully physical nor entirely energy-based. The interface deployment required precise positioning at knife station boundary where reality distortion reached exactly 57% threshold, specific parameter necessary for containment field to establish effective resonance pattern. Finding this exact position required both technological measurement and intuitive awareness of chaos dynamics. There, Ryujin's consciousness indicated, identifying optimal position where swirling crimson energy met still stable reality. The boundary layer maintains sufficient coherence for interface connectivity. Naruto positioned the device precisely, activating initial connection sequence while channeling draconic energy to stabilize local reality sufficiently for technology to function. Golden light formed protective shell around the interface, creating essential buffer zone between chaotic energy and delicate technological components. Interface positioned and initialized, he communicated through integrated system. Commence primary field generation sequence. Serafina's response came with professional precision. Acknowledged. Primary field charging. Synchronization in 15 seconds. Maintain position for field establishment. The critical moment approached as containment system reached activation threshold. Energy built within the device, creating visible distortion field that began interacting with chaos boundary in complex interference patterns. For several tense seconds, T-cum remained uncertain as competing energy systems established tentative equilibrium. Then abruptly, field coherence achieved critical mass. Azure energy erupted from interface module, expanding toward in precisely calculated geometric pattern. Where this energy contacted chaos boundary, reality distortion stabilized momentarily before gradually returning toward normal parameters. Field establishment confirmed, Serafina reported, professional tone barely containing evident relief. Initial containment metrics within acceptable parameters. Begin extraction sequence immediately, exposure threshold approaching critical level. The warning came not moment too soon. Despite draconic protection, proximity to chaos boundary had begun affecting Naruto's physical form. Golden scales knife. Stead across exposed skin as Ryujin's essence instinctively created additional protective layers against corruption. Careful extraction required maintaining partial connection to interface during initial stabilization phase. For nearly 60 seconds, dangerously approaching maximum safe exposure threshold, Naruto remained in position ensuring field integrity before containment system achieved self-sustaining operation. Containment field self-regulation achieved, Serafina finally confirmed. Immediate extraction authorized. Tracking your withdrawal path. Naruto disengaged from the interface. Immediately beginning extraction along predetermined path maintained through draconic energy stabilization. Even with this protection, the return journey proved challenging as containment field created unpredictable energy fluctuations throughout affected region. When he finally reached the research bunker, Serafina's professional demeanor momentarily gave way to evident relief before composure reasserted itself. Containment parameters holding at 83% effectiveness, she reported while simultaneously conducting exposure assessment scan. Chaos corruption indicators present but below transformation threshold. The successful containment operation represented significant victory, though temporary rather than permanent solution. According to system projections, the FL-D would maintain effective barrier for approximately 72 hours before degradation reached critical levels, sufficient time for complete regional evacuation but inadequate for permanent resolution. Regional stability sufficient for evacuation completion, Naruto confirmed after reviewing system projections. Permanent containment requires resources beyond current capabilities. With immediate crisis stabilized, they rejoined the main expedition group at designated rally point several kilometers from manifestation zone. The reunion revealed considerable progress in both evacuation coordination and subject stabilization. Ghislaine had successfully organized comprehensive evacuation operation, utilizing Beast Tribe communication networks to reach settlements throughout potential exposure region. Meanwhile, Lyra had stabilized all rescued subjects sufficiently for transport to secure location, with most beginning to regain consciousness under controlled conditions. Serafina immediately focused attention on her sister, who had begun showing signs of awareness despite lingering sedation effects. The young woman's initial disorientation gave way to recognition upon seeing her sister. Emotional reunion temporarily overriding professional composure for both siblings. The expedition established temporary camp beyond projected safety perimeter, allowing necessary recovery while maintaining security against potential threats. During this period, awakening subjects provided valuable information regarding Celestial Order operations and mysterious Crystal Ascension Facility C. Connected to their Crystal Spire's destination. They separated us based on test results, explained one adolescent Beast Tribe boy, his account matching others with remarkable consistency. Those showing favorable adaptation metrics were prepared for transfer to Crystal Ascension for final transformation procedure. During some celestial alignment they kept referencing this information med connection between Celestial Order's experimental program and larger cosmic events Morwena had referenced during their earlier encounter. The timing correlation suggested accelerating timeline to ward whatever grand convergence their astronomical calculations predicted. As night fell across the evacuation zone, the manifestation containment field created eerie illumination visible for miles. Azure barrier holding crimson chaos at bay through technological intervention and draconic energy stabilization. The sight provided powerful visual representation of the precarious balance they maintained. Aimed against forces threatening the region. Their leadership council convened to assess strategic position and determine next steps. The successful rescue operation had achieved primary humanitarian objective, while containment measures provided temporary regional security. However, both Crimson Hand activities at Nexus sites and Celestial Order operations at Crystal Ascension suggested converging threats requiring immediate attention. The manifestation containment remains temporary solution, Lyra noted during their discussion. Permanent resolution requires proper sealing techniques similar to original Nexus of binding requirements, which returns us to original mission parameters, Ghislaine concluded. The crystal spires potentially contain dragon tears necessary for permanent sealing ritual. Naruto confirmed this assessment based on Ryujin's knowledge. The timing correlation between Celestial Order's Crystal Ascension operation and our Crystal Spires objective cannot be coincidental. Both locations likely represent same fundamental site viewed through different traditional frameworks. This convergence created clear strategic direction despite tactical complications. They would need to divide their resources between evacuation support and continued mission toward Crystal Spires, balancing immediate humanitarian needs against longer-term threat resolution. The decision emerged naturally from their complementary capabilities. Ghislaine would remain with tribal warriors to complete evacuation operations and establish regional security. Lyra would coordinate BJECT rehabilitation while researching permanent containment options, and Naruto would continue toward Crystal Spires with Serafina once her sister stabilized sufficiently for transport to secure location. As their council concluded, Ghislaine approached Naruto privately, her expression revealing both professional respect and personal connection that had developed through their shared experiences. Our paths temporarily diverge but toward common purpose, she observed, warrior's directness softened by genuine emotion. Your training continues to serve beyond mere swordsmanship. The blade's lessons extend to all aspects of honorable life, Naruto acknowledged. Your application demonstrates true understanding beyond technical execution. Their exchange carried deeper significance mere words suggested. Acknowledgement of evolving relationship that balanced mentor-student dynamic with growing personal connection. The temporary separation represented not conclusion but necessary phase in continuing journey together. Similar conversations occurred throughout camp as team members prepared for temporary division of responsibilities. Particularly significant was Lyra's discussio with Naruto regarding magical requirements for permanent containment solution, technical exchange that nevertheless revealed growing trust between fundamentally different magical traditions. The Ven frost preservation techniques might temporarily stabilize dragon tears if we locate them, she theorized, scholarly precision balanced by practical application focus. Though permanent integration requires draconic energy framework beyond my independent capabilities, complementary approaches create possibilities neither tradition achieves alone, Naruto observed, a principle applying beyond immediate technical discussion. As dawn approached, bringing final preparations for their divided missions, Serafina sought private conversation with Naruto. Her sister's condition had stabilized sufficiently for transport to secure location. Ghislaine had arranged with tribal healers, allowing Serafina to continue toward Crystal Spires as planned. Professional assessment suggests our objectives remain optimally aligned. She began with characteristic formality that gradually softened. Personal gratitude. She hesitated, finding unfamiliar territory in genuine emotional expression. Exceeds conventional acknowledgement frameworks. Some debts require no formal balancing, Naruto replied, understanding the significance of her attempting personal rather than professional communication. Shared purpose provides sufficient foundation. The subtle relaxation in her posture suggested his response had successfully navigated the complex intersection between her professional ethica framework and developing personal connection. Their partnership had evolved from suspicious alignment of convenience to genuine trust based on demonstrated actions rather than declared intentions. As morning fully illuminated the evacuation zone, their divided missions prepared for departure. Ghislaine would lead regional security operations with tribal warriors and stabilized subjects, estably Xing's safe haven beyond manifestation influence. Naruto and Serafina would continue toward Crystal Spires, seeking both permanent containment solution and prevention of whatever celestial order plan. At their Crystal Ascension facility. The farewell between temporarily separating team members carried emotional weight beyond professional acknowledgement. Ghislaine clasped forearms with Naruto, in traditional warrior farewell that nevertheless conveyed deeper connection than mere combat alliance. Lyra exchanged scholarly observations that contained subtle personal concern beneath professional terminology. Even the rescued subjects expressed gratitude that transcended cultural differences between their various backgrounds. As Naruto and Serafina departed eastward toward distant mountains where Crystal Spires supposedly awaited, the manifestation containment field glowed steadily behind them, visible reminder of both immediate victory and continuing responsibility. The converging ATS of Crimson Hand operations at Nexus sites and Celestial Order activities at Crystal Ascension suggested accelerating timeline toward cosmic event with potential world-altering implications. Their journey continued with renewed purpose, strengthened by successful rescue operation but sobered by manifestation's demonstration of forces they opposed. Blood had been shed and honor tested, but Chair challenges clearly awaited at journey's end where crystal formations supposedly held both miraculous healing potential and terrible transformation power, depending on who controlled their ancient energy. Chapter 3 End. The End. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.